Heineken going to take a shot towards McLaurin. Near sideline. It's caught! Touchdown! Touchdown, Washington!
Walker the snap. Fires downfield. Tommy Tremble's open. Makes the catch. Touchdown! Panthers!
Fires it to the end zone. It's caught at the 1 yard line. Giants stand him up. He's not in. And the Braves going to run out. It's stopped him at the 1 yard line.
Swing and a drive, left field. It's deep. It's going. Yes. And it is gone. Yes. Yes. It is bedlam at the bank as Bryce Harper has put the Phillies on top.
Lunch Money with Kyle and Ray, presented by FantasyGuru.com.
So there you go. It was that kind of Sunday. The Phillies are in the World Series. The Giants are 6-1. The Panthers beat the Bucks. And oh yeah, the Washington Commanders top the Packers and Aaron Rodgers. We welcome you to Lunch Money. We love our Mondays, most notably because we haven't hung out with Ray Flowers in 3 days. So Ray, how you doing on this Monday morning, buddy?
I'm good, Kyle. Yeah. A nice weekend of some good football, some moderate football, some crappy football, some fun, hopefully. Recharged here to let it rip here for our 90-plus minute extravaganza that we do every Monday.
I want to let everybody know right off the top, I was a week off. I was a week early, Ray. I just want to let everybody know, breaking news, PJ Walker, top 10 fantasy quarterback. Ray, everybody laughed at me, thought I was an idiot. I looked like one. For 7 days, I looked like an idiot, Ray. I had him in my top 10. I listened to the public, something I don't like to do, but I listened, Ray. I did not put him on my top 10 last week, and I paid the price. A top 10 effort by PJ Walker. Anybody can do it, Ray. Proof positive. Anybody can do it.
Not breaking news. The NFL product stinks. In this... and we're starting to see this because people are starting to break it down. I haven't had the time to go and look at all the data, but, we're seeing the average quarterback performance down 3 or 4 points in the fantasy game from last year. Like, it's bad. It's really bad. We've got youngsters struggling. We've got veterans struggling. We've got injuries. Offenses across the land are nowhere near as effective or as good as they have been as recently as last year. The entire NFL is down offensively, Kyle, and it's getting kind of disturbing.
Yeah, I mean, think about all the big storylines in the offseason, right? Like, Russell Wilson, obviously a total failure. Matt Ryan hasn't done anything making the move to Tennessee. Carson Wentz is hurt. Aaron Rodgers gets the big contract. He's down. Tom Brady retires, comes back. He's way down. Kyler Murray gets the big contract. He's down. Lamar Jackson's wanting a contract. He's down. Who's up? I guess Geno Smith. Geno Smith is up this year, Ray. Everybody else seems to be down.
10 new head coaches, 16 new offensive coordinators, 14 new defensive coordinators. I think the offseason signings these teams made didn't work.
Yeah.
Hey, we've talked about this over at FantasyGuru.com. Use the code BETTOR, BETTOR, for a discount on any of our products over there. Some of this is coaching, some of this is personnel, some of this is injury. I think some of it is happenstance. Like, we can throw it all in the blender, but the fact is, offense is down everywhere. And we can also give credit to defense. Let's not, because I'm a negative. I always take the negative side of things. But when you see offense everywhere down, I can't think that every defense is better, though apparently the 14 new DCs are better than the 16 new OCs.
At least Pat Mahomes and Joe Burrow are still good. We like that. Justin Herbert's still good, although he can't keep anybody healthy, and that's getting a little more gruesome by the day. There is a ton of recap. I will say this in week 7, Ray. I kind of feel like this was the worst week for injuries. Is that fair to say? I think if you were scrambling last week, the scramble is going to begin again this week, Ray. There's going to be a lot of action on the waiver wire. Guys who are owned by nobody. I mean, seriously, Marquise Goodwin, give me a break. But he has a huge game. He's going to be gobbled up everywhere. We got a lot of guys, Ray, who are probably below average players, but because of injury, because of performance, because of increased role. It's going to be a wild waiver wire this week. The injuries especially hit hard yesterday, I think.
We have the Chiefs and the Chargers on bye. So only 2 teams on bye this week, but obviously a ton of big players in those 2 organizations. And then all the stuff that happened yesterday. And, I was struck by it too. And we're all dealing with the injury factor, right? We've been dealing with it for years. It does seem like the pace is picking up. It seems like that across the land. Baseball is this way. Football is this way. And, it's getting to the point where seasonal play is tough. It's tough to win anyway. But when you can't week to week know who's even going to be on your team, I mean, this is, and it's not just the top 5 players, it's the top 20 players, the top 35 players. It's the players you picked up to fill in for the players that were originally hurt. They're now hurt. It's messy. And when you have to start legitimately considering guys like Marquise Goodwin, who entered yesterday with like 6 catches this season, who stands 5'8" and hasn't been an NFL, potential NFL breakout player for 3 years, that's where we're at in 2022 football, and it's tight.
Yeah, I think I saw a number on Goodwin, Ray. I think it's like he's had the most targets he's had since 2017 is maybe like 40 targets, something like that.
Yeah.
It's like this is a nobody. He's hanging around the NFL.
Yep.
But maybe he's a somebody because of DK Metcalf's injury. We will recap all of it on this edition of Lunch Money. If you joined us before on Mondays, you know what we do. Ray and I sit here for literally like 90 plus minutes and just give our thoughts on the games. Everything we saw, we relate to you. How it affects you in the DFS world, the fantasy world, the wagering world, what it means for the future. That's what we're going to do in just a few moments. We've got other stuff too. Ray mentions the trash product that is the NFL. Newsflash, Ray, it ain't going to get better tonight. I have very low expectations for the Bears and Patriots. I hope for like one side to get 20 points. Like that's what I'm hoping, Ray. And I honestly don't know if we're going to get 20 points from either side tonight.
I will not be giving this game on our watchability scale a 5. I will not be giving it a 4. The question is, how low will I go with it?
Yeah. I didn't murder this on the watchability scale. It's okay, I guess, on my end. But we'll get to the Bears and the Patriots. We will have the lunch hunch, the bet du jour, quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, everything you expect you're going to get, including where we start. And like I said, Ray, we like to go game by game, match by match, highlight by highlight, moment by moment. Do you have a game you'd want to start with? You said this is a terrible product this way. Should we just start in San Francisco? Let's start there.
That's not the worst game, but sure.
We got what do we get? 60 plus points in that game. So that's good.
That's good.
We got to see the Chiefs do their thing. We got to see the first look at Christian McCaffrey. Fairly easy win though for the Chiefs when it was all said and done. They really winning by 3 touchdowns almost here. Kind of crazy to see them take advantage of the Niners that much. And remember, this was a 10-0 game at one point. San Francisco was up early. Then they crumbled. So we saw a lot of good stuff from the Chiefs, a few things from the Niners. Where are you starting with your takeaway on this one, Ray?
I'm starting in the backfield on both sides. Isaiah Pacheco was announced as the starter before the game. And this is the start of what we've discussed here on the Bettor Sports Network on Lunch Money for a long time. It's what we've been discussing over at fantasyguru.com for a long time. Pacheco is eventually going to take over the backfield. Now, he's not a pass catcher, but he's eventually going to take over the ball-carrying duties, and he started to do that yesterday. However, I got it wrong in terms of telling people whether to start him or not. I had him like a running back 25. And though he led the team in rushing yards, he only had 8 carries for 43 yards. So long-term, I still think we're going to be right with Pacheco. Yesterday, it was right, but it was the wrong call for where I had him. On the flip side, I was totally right about Christian McCaffrey. So I just wanted to juxtapose the mistake with Pacheco with the correct call on McCaffrey. McCaffrey looked fine. He was out there and he did his thing. However, he had 10 touches, and it was 60 yards of offense, 62 yards of offense, whatever it was. It will drastically change moving forward. The Niners offense will look more dynamic moving forward. But it was a tale of 2 running backs. One, the wrong call in week 7, one, the right call in week 7 for me, Kyle.
Would you have suggested Pacheco over McCaffrey?
No,
yesterday?
I had McCaffrey 3 spots ahead of Pacheco.
Okay. See, because last week we were talking about this on Friday, and I said, I don't care if he dresses, I'm playing McCaffrey. I would have started him everywhere. And Ray, even if you told people not to, nobody listened to you.
True.
It's Christian McCaffrey, man. They're not going to sit him. So, right call. You're probably right. The Pacheco thing, here's my issue, Ray. Sure, a starter, but they use these other guys too. Do you think he's going to be like the guy in Kansas City? I kind of struggle with that. Like my takeaway from this game is kind of in reference to that. You look at this offense, Ray, and you don't know where it's coming from. You really don't. The Chiefs have so many options, and Pat Mahomes is like the chess master here. He's going to different guys on every play. I know Mecole Hardman had the 3 touchdowns, but he really barely touched the football. Like it was just a solution of circumstance there. Yeah, Mecole Hardman, what do you know, 3 touchdowns. And he's played better, but that receiving game, the rushing attack, I still look at the Chiefs, Ray, and yeah, these guys need to be owned. But I don't know if we got much consistency going on here, like whether it's Pacheco or Hardman or Smith-Schuster or, McKinnon, any of these guys, Ray. I'm kind of looking at it and say they just have too many weapons, and they really do want to spread it around each and every game.
Yeah, I mean, having weapons is great, and spreading it around makes you difficult to defend. So it works, and we're seeing it work. The backfield is a mess. What we see here is Clyde Edwards-Helaire is the luckiest player in football. He scores touchdowns when he never touches the ball every game, right? It's like, what is going on? He was third on the team in snaps in the backfield, third on the team in routes run in the backfield yesterday, and he's the touchdown guy. Okay. Pacheco is going to be the lead ball carrier. That I truly believe that. I've said that all along. But if he's not involved in the passing game flow matters. The game plan matters. There are games where the Chiefs are content running the ball 13 times. And we have this weird thing going where Jerick McKinnon, who every time in McKinnon's career where he's been looked at to lead a backfield, he's gotten hurt 2 weeks later. He can't handle the workload. But yesterday, he dominated the snaps. He had 28-19 for Pacheco. He ran more routes than the other two guys combined. So McKinnon is clearly the pass-catching back. He's clearly the 2-minute back. So we've got a youngster who's the best runner. We've got a random veteran who doesn't do anything but score touchdowns. And then we got another random veteran who plays a lot but doesn't really do anything other than catch a couple of passes. So it is a messy backfield at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, I look at this box score, Ray, and like, okay, first touchdown is a pass to Hardman. Okay, not crazy, semi-normal. Then it's a Hardman rushing touchdown. Then it's a Clyde Edwards-Helaire rushing touchdown. Then it's a Justin Watson touchdown catch. Then it's another Mecole Hardman touchdown run. Like, you don't see Kelsey here. You don't see Smith-Schuster until the very end when they get that bomb down the middle of the football field. It's just an offense that, again, you have to have parts, but I think the inconsistencies are going to be there the rest of the year. Like, 1 week you'll love Hardman. Like, Ray, I know what's going on. The point chasing on Hardman is going to be wild this week. Mm-hmm. And I hate to break it. And again, they're on a bye. But, Ray, he's not having another game like this season. He just isn't. 3 touchdowns, great, but 2 of them were on rushing attempts. And those were his only 2 rushing attempts of the game. That's not happening. Like, so I look at Hardman, Ray, and for people want to go after it, but I don't see consistency happening there. This offense is not built that way. The only consistent piece is Kelsey. He still gets the catches, the yards. Everything else is kind of a crapshoot, I think, with this offense.
Yeah, and it's too early to say, but I'm saying it anyway. We were right at fantasyguru.com. We said Hardman over Sky Moore. Everyone else wanted Sky Moore. Sky Moore doesn't even see the field, and when he does, he fumbles the ball. Doesn't do anything.
He's going to have 2 touchdowns next week.
Though. He might. He might, except he can't hold on to the football. And Hardman is a guy I know in particular, Jeff Manns over at Fantasy Guru, and he wrote it up in his weekly write-up that comes out every Sunday night, that he goes, I think I've legitimately answered 15,000 questions about Hardman, and I've said every time I'm keeping him. And no one has. Everyone's dropped them. And like you said, now people are going to pay the price. Because now they're going to have to go to the waiver wire, overpay for a guy that's not going to repeat rushing touchdowns, overpay for a guy who's not even playing this week. So, have fun with that. But we've been saying all along, I have Hardman on multiple teams. I didn't even have him in my lineup yesterday, unfortunately.
That's what I was going to say. I mean, even if you have him on your team, Ray, that wasn't like a game you looked at and say, oh, Mecole Hardman, jump on that. Like a lot of people had him sitting on his bench.
I think I have him I had him active in 2 of the 4 leagues I have him. So, but again, I got him and I don't have to chase, and I got the piece and I got the weapon. This is, and we talk about this a lot here on the show on Lunch Money. We have to think ahead. You can't be reactionary. If you're reactionary, you're just in the herd with everyone else.
Let me help you think ahead, Ray. Trade him.
Depends what you can get.
Right?
But sure. You can absolutely.
Someone will think he's a wide receiver 3 now. Oh, Pat Mahomes, 3 touchdowns against the Niners. Let's jump on this. Let's go get Mecole Hardman. If you can, make the flip. So big win for Kansas City. I didn't think they'd have it in them. They more than had it in them with that victory. Staying out west, how about the Seahawks? What? The Seahawks? They go to L.A., Ray, and somehow they win 37-23. They in effect do it without DK Metcalf. Mm-hmm. They had a limping Tyler Lockett. This was like Kenneth Walker just killing it, and that's my takeaway. Kenneth Walker, we said 2 weeks ago when he popped up as a waiver possibility, that's the one guy for every 0 running back practitioner they had to get him. Mm-hmm. Kenneth Walker had to be gotten. He had to be bought. You had to secure him. You had to spend whatever it takes to get Kenneth Walker because the role was there. This was not just some Johnny-come-lately or Chubba Hubbard. This was a guy who was going to get 15 to 20 touches every week. And Ray, it has worked totally according to plan. Monstrous game yesterday with a couple of monstrous runs by Kenneth Walker. Just a rookie, just a couple of starts, but man, let it roll, let it ride. I mean, it's looking great with Kenneth Walker thus far.
It is. And, this one is as we discussed when this, storyline popped with Penny getting hurt. This one I'm just so confused by because, Kenneth Walker should have been drafted, and whether you believe in handcuffing or not, should have been drafted by everyone that took Penny.
Yeah.
Let's not be stupid about this, because that's Penny is that long track record of bumps and bruises. If you look at his ADP was like 100. So I don't know how in the world he was drafted and then let go. Again, people not doing what we talk about, and specifically you have talked about for, 10 years. If you draft a rookie, you got to hold on to him more than 3 weeks, especially at the running back position. People clearly didn't do that. So people had to go blow budgets to add this guy. At least in the end, the result is great performances. He looks good. He looks fast. He looks strong. And the early returns are suggestive of the people that did blow their budget, 75%, whatever it was. It's going to work. Now, it's a long season. He's got to stay healthy, all of that kind of stuff. But the offense has been effective, and he has been a huge piece of that in the middle. He has looked terrific.
And Ray, he's still mostly an unknown. It's 2 starts. It's 6 games, 7 games as a rookie. But if I were looking at running backs and saying, okay, workload the remainder of the season, Kenneth Walker's top 10, right?
Yeah.
Workload. I mean, just pure workload as a running back. You look everywhere else in football, and outside of like 6 or 7 spots, like a Mixon, like a Henry, like a Najee Harris, a Dalvin Cook, Kenneth Walker's in that top 10 range. And we've seen it 23 carries yesterday, 170 yards. I'm not going to sit here and predict the touchdowns and the yardage and all that. I do feel comfortable, Ray, in saying 15 to 18 carries a week. That's going to happen for Kenneth Walker. And there's not a lot of guys in football because of that quantity, because of that workload, probably looking at an RB1 for the remainder of the season. Now, I know your takeaways on the other side. The Bulls were not awful yesterday. They just kind of ran into a buzzsaw of Seattle. Speaking of buzzsaws, this Austin Eckler thing, Ray, it's kind of hit the buzzsaw point. After a very quiet start, all of a sudden the dude is entirely unstoppable.
Yeah, he looks like the guy last year that won leagues. And, this is as much a story of, let it play out, right? Because there were a bunch of people that were pissed off with Austin Eckler 4 weeks ago. Oh, he's running back 11. What's he doing now? He's out of control. He's absolutely out of control. Now, part of this is Keenan Allen didn't play a full set of snaps yesterday. We have Mike Williams dealing with an issue with his leg now, so there's no telling how much time he's missed. The offense, as we talked about last week, I threw out the term broken. I don't know if it's broken, but it's certainly wonky. You can't be having your running back catch 22 passes in 2 games. That doesn't work, okay? They're 4-3. Maybe they can fix things here during the bye. But again, it's Eckler with 22 catches in 2 games. If that was all we were getting was 11 catches a week, all right, yeah, we're having a party anyway. When you look at 8 touchdowns in 4 games, it's a fiesta. I was going to say effing fiesta. It's an effing fiesta. He's out, and it's all of a sudden, it's looking like the guy from last year. And the one thing we all knew is that the 20 touchdowns he scored last year weren't going to happen this year. I'm still in that boat, but I'm starting to get nervous about that prediction, Kyle. 8 scores in 4 games for Austin Eckler.
Well, and you talk about Allen and Williams, right? Keenan Allen probably shouldn't have been on the field yesterday. And that threw us all for a loop in the fantasy game. I told a lot of people, Ray, if Keenan Allen's out there, you have to play him. And that was a late game, so people had to make the decision early. I stick by it. Keenan Allen's on the field. I want to play him. But he was not right. Didn't play in the entire second half. This Mike Williams injury, Ray, I'm thinking it's severe, like multi-weeks, if not season for Mike Williams. We'll see. We'll see what they come back with on the MRI today. But I'm bringing up all that, Ray, because this offense is now going to be entirely funneled through Austin Eckler. Like if you don't have Williams and you have a limping Allen who's played, what's he played? Like 7 quarters the entire season?
Yeah.
Rough with Keenan Allen. You haven't really had Palmer step up. You're making moves to, I mean, what are we up to? Our 4th and 5th receivers?
Yeah, Guyton's out for the season with the knee injury. DeAndre really Carter's a thing now.
Yeah, it's really just getting weed whacked with that receiving game. And I wonder about Herbert, because you're right. If you're throwing 15 passes to your running back a week, That's not really a quarterback that gets me excited. I don't think you can bail on Justin Herbert. Like, where are you going to go? You're stuck with him. But it'll be interesting, Ray, to see over the next month or so, maybe longer, what this offense looks like. Because right now you look at it and you say, man, this is Herbert and Eckler, and that's it. That's what we got for the LA Chargers.
So don't forget about Gerald Everett, Kyle. Come on.
I try not to.
Yeah. I mean, Herbert went 293-2 with a pick. The pick was a bad decision. 293-2. If he does 293-2 every week, I mean, come on, man. I said this to someone yesterday. If he does that, he goes to the Hall of Fame. Like, he's fine. But to your point, it took him 51 passes to get there. It was all underneath. And, at a certain point in time, especially if Mike Williams isn't there to challenge defenses deep, Guyton, the other guy that was theoretically going to do that, is out with the injury for the season. What are they going to do? Like, defense are really going to start to sag in. And then, Eckler's going to have 12 catches for 51 yards because it's all going to be underneath. So they got some fixing to do with this offense during the bye week.
Speaking of injuries and significant ones, let's go to Denver. No Russell Wilson yesterday, and we are now hearing the truth that he could miss multiple weeks after he was, day to day, whatever the Broncos were trying to sell us. Ray, the offense looked like it didn't have its starting quarterback, but I remind everybody, even with their starting quarterback, it kind of looks like it did yesterday. The Jets get another road win. Think about this, Ray. They go to Lambeau and they go to Mile High back-to-back weeks, and they get a win.
Yep.
16-9, but kind of the talking point out of this one, Ray, it's got to be Breece Hall. And this is the danger of people counting their eggs before they hatch. This sport gets rid of you in a snap. And Ray, right now, people are going to get rid of Breece Hall in a snap. He's probably done for the season. Hasn't been confirmed, but it's not looking good. Finished for the year. Everybody who went all in on like Rookie of the Year awards, it's why I try to remind people, Ray, it's pretty foolish to like, and we do it here on the show. We all plus 500, plus 800. Why not? But you never want to go big on these things. And Breece Hall is proof positive of that. It's another reason why, Ray, even when Breece Hall took over and he was the toast of the town and everybody's celebrating, you still had to hold on to Michael Carter. Ray, I was in a 16-team league this year with just a multitude of problems this week. Like, I had guys on buys. I had Prescott coming back. I didn't know whether to start him or Geno Smith. I made the wrong decision there. I was scrambling for running backs. I'm picking up, Donta Foreman on Thursday night at like 11 p.m. after the trade. Like, I was scrambling. I got guys on buy throughout it all. And I had to pick up tight ends. I had to pick up receivers. I kept holding Michael Carter. Kept holding him throughout it all. And Ray, it was nothing like, oh, Michael Carter's this or Michael Carter's that, or, oh, he's going to get the job back, or he's looked so good. It was none of that. I'm holding on to the guy, Ray, strictly in case an injury happens. Because if an injury happens, he's the dude. And am I excited about Michael Carter? I don't know if excitement's the word, Ray, but I do know this. We now got a guy who should get 15 touches every week. And it may not be Kenneth Walker, but Ray, now I got a starting running back just because I was patient. And holding on to these backups in situations where it's warranted, not following the headlines of Breece Hall is the greatest thing since sliced bread, just being patient, holding on to guys, maintaining that handcuff, if you will. I don't own Breece Hall anywhere, but I own Michael Carter in a lot of spots, Ray, and my team strengthened overnight just by being patient. I wasn't getting much from Carter. I haven't started him this year, but I've held on to him all the way through, and now maybe I get a bit of a payoff over the last 2 months.
Yeah, and this season we're not even halfway through the season yet, but it really is playing out in a way that should lead people to handcuff their running backs. I swear 45% of the questions every week are how to handle the backfield from people. Which backup guy do I drop? And I ask them, well, which starters do you have? Their backups never match the starters. So all anyone is doing is randomly guessing who's going to get hurt next week. That's all anyone's doing. How fun is that? And the answer is it's not. How productive is that? The answer is it's not. Okay. Now, I have, as an example, I have Kenneth Walker in multiple leagues because I was doing drafts and we're sitting there in the 12th round and no one drafted. Yeah. I'm like, well, hell, if the penny's not taking him, I'll grab him. So I have a couple leagues like that. But this idea of people just randomly working the waiver wire, it doesn't work. Number one. Number two, everyone is going to be in, to your point now, on Johnson, right? Everyone, not Johnson, who might Carter. Thank you, Kyle. Yeah. Thinking Ty Johnson. Everyone's going to be in on Carter. He's going to be a huge expenditure on the fab market because the Jets can't throw the football to save their lives. It's got to go through the backfield. And, you were smart. You held on to a guy in your deep league because someone wasn't smart and didn't take the backup to Breece Hall. As great as the starters are doing, it takes a guy getting hurt for it all to come crashing down. And now you're running to the waiver wire hoping that Zach Moss is there. It's just a terrible place to be.
Well, and there are other leagues, Ray, where I'm holding on to like Khalil Herbert. I'm not even considering him starting in those leagues. Every week it's a dead spot in effect. But that's like the price you pay for this idea of handcuffing. And I sometimes people think, well, they're talking about handcuffing my guy. I'm not really, Ray. I'm just looking at guys who, if an injury happens, that guy's going to get work. I don't own Breece Hall, but I have Michael Carter. And that goes back to draft day. Carter was way cheaper. And I said, well, I'm not A, sold on Breece Hall being the real deal. And B, who gets the work if Hall goes down, or if it's Carter. And I'm getting him in the 11th round, the 10th round, wherever it may be. So even just holding on to those guys that you don't use, like I don't use these guys, Ray. And some people may look at that and say, what the hell are you doing? It's week 4, it's week 5. You got to have points on your bench. No, you don't win by having points on your bench. Doesn't matter if they're scoring or not. You got to understand how the depth chart works, how the roles work. And that's the only reason I'm holding on to Herbert. It's the only reason I'm holding on to Carter. There are a few of those guys right now in the NFL where you only hold on. You're not even thinking of starting them. You're just holding on to them when the eventual injury happens. And usually in this sport, it always happens. Mm-hmm. It always happens, Ray. It's all Alexander Madison. If you own him right now, folks, don't get rid of him. You can't, Ray. You got to hold on to these guys for the extent of the season.
Yeah. And again, Kyle's half right. He should be all the way and doing it to back up his own guys. But at least
Ray, we know how drafts work. Guys get stolen, guys get yanked. But you can't draw up the draft, and I'm going to get every backup I have. You've got to take. I got to be the guy taking other people's backups too.
Sometimes you have to. But then Kenneth Walker, whose ADP was 100, and he was on the waiver wire everywhere. If you're in an 8-team league, Kenneth Walker should have been drafted, and he's on the waiver wire in 75% of leagues when Penny goes down with an injury. So, I mean, people draft wrong, straight up. They draft wrong. Then they work their roster wrong. Then they work the waiver wire wrong, and they wonder why they're 2-5. Like it's, I'm the same way as you. I have 3 or 4 teams that are going to be 6-1. Like I'm killing it, and my benches aren't doing anything. They're doing nothing. My bench is scoring 19 points a week. It's doing nothing. That's not the point. I've got the backup pieces to my guys that are doing things. People get way too enamored with having 14 different players scoring 8 points a week. Whoopee-doo. You have 4 different wide receiver 4s. What do you do each week for your flex? Have the depth chart, have it set properly, and give yourself clear decisions every week. It's one of the worst. I get questions on Sunday mornings when people ask over on Twitter at SiriusXM Fantasy. I answer 10-1 on Sunday mornings. People ask questions, and it's one of 2 things. They either have 4 top 15 receivers or running backs, or they have none, right? So it's one or the other. And then what you end up getting is, Ray, which of these 2 running backs do I play? They have running back 19, 21, 23, 26, 29. You're going to make wrong calls every week. So instead of doing that, how about we just have running back 14 and 15 and running backs 56 and 57 that are the backups? You have the right choice to make every week. It's a clear choice to make every week. They're going to produce every week, and it doesn't give you an ulcer to do it.
Yeah. People are saying, hey, Walker wasn't available in my league. You may be right. I know he was available in a lot of leagues.
He was available everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah, we saw the bidding. It was up. And we talked about that 2 weeks ago. We said you blow the budget for Walker. If you're one of those 0 RB guys, you blow the budget for him. And I'm guessing,
Ray, it's not Walker available now. We're talking about weeks ago. Yeah. We know he's not available now.
And now, Ray, Carter's going to be that guy. Mm-hmm. Now, I'll say this. If I missed out on Walker, I'm almost forced to go after Carter if he's available, right? I don't like Carter near as much as I do Walker. But because of the situation, and if you're in the market for a running back, here's your guy, Ray. I don't think he's worth like a 70% bid. I don't think he is, but people are going to have to do that if they want him. And this goes back to this, I'll get running backs off the waiver wire. I don't need to draft them. This is the game you're playing now. And Ray, you get Carter. It's not a hit. Who knows? It may be a hit, may not. We just don't know how it's going to work. I know this offense is pretty bad for the Jets side. They can't, like you said, they can't throw the football. But this is the world you sign up for, Ray, if you don't draft running backs early. The people who draft running backs early maybe have to deal with injuries. Okay? They lose a guy. But if you don't draft a running back, Ray, every week you enter Sunday morning and you really have no idea who you're starting. Like you're guessing. I guess if you got Kenneth Walker, you're a hit, but everybody else is guessing. So that running back position, I don't think there's this is how you do it. And every time you do it this way, it'll work. That doesn't exist. But we see a lot of strategies out there, Ray, and I don't know if any of them, even the one I employ, I don't know if that's better than the others. Like they're all just your own experience. Choose your own adventure. You just hope for the best. I don't think there's like a steadfast rule. You have to do this with running backs and you will succeed. I don't know if that even exists.
Handcuff. It works. Michael Carter's ADP was 120. If you took Breece Hall and you didn't take Michael Carter, you blew it. It's 120. If someone reached for him, he was a 10th round pick. Like it's not like the scenario when you're talking about the Packers, for example, where Dillon and Jones were going really early. A lot of these running backs had their backups that, they weren't even drafted. Naheem Hines went ahead of Michael Carter. Why? Like to do what? To catch 53 passes. Woo! Like why? It's so anyway, is he worth 70% of your budget? No. If you lost Breece Hall and he's on the waiver wire and you don't have Michael Carter, you might have to pay that price.
What about your takeaway? 16-9. Give me something here, Ray.
Yeah, I'll give you something here. And, I pat myself on the back. I called this when it happened. Zach Wilson stinks. He has destroyed this offense.
He's undefeated.
He is the best quarterback in NFL history in terms of winning percentage, and he's one of the worst in terms of production. He is doing nothing. He has destroyed the offense. He got lucky yesterday on that fumble where the defender touched his towel like with his pinky. Otherwise it would have been a turnover, fumble 6. But in the end, he threw for 121 yards. The week before that, he threw for 110 yards. The week before that, he threw for 210 yards. He's averaging 140 yards and no touchdowns in 3 games. He has thrown 54 fewer passes than Joe Flacco while playing 1 more game. He has ground the offense to a halt. There is no one in the passing attack you can use. No one in the passing attack you can use. They are remarkably winning football games, which speaks more to the crappy NFL product right now in 2022 than it does anything about Zach Wilson's performance. Because this is supposed to be a quarterback league. And he is doing terrible things under center right now for the Jets, and they're still winning.
Do all the receivers belong on the waiver wire? I think they do, Ray, right? Well, they all have to be on the waiver wire. Like, I'm not – okay, I may miss one Corey Davis game. Who cares? Go get me some help. Guys that have a future, guys that are in an offense, guys that have a quarterback. Like, I look at these Jets receivers, Ray, and, I liked Elijah Moore. I like Garrett Wilson. I've never been a Corey Davis guy, but all 3 of them, Ray, I feel like are on rosters everywhere. And if you look at the last month, they don't belong on rosters anywhere, do they? They all belong on the waiver wire.
Well, it depends where you're going to go, right? Because, one crowd.
How about going to a third receiver and a good like Ray McCole Hardman? I'm not interested in the guy, but I'd rather have him, Ray, over any of these Jets receivers.
And again, I'm not disagreeing with you. And this is something that we've said for 4-5 months over at fantasyguru.com. You want pieces in good offenses. Everyone wants to play this game. Who's the wide receiver 2 here? Who's the running back 2 here? And sometimes I pull a Ted Schuster and just say, I'm not interested. I'm out. I'm just not interested. And people need to make this determination, and they don't. You have to understand that not every offense is going to work. It's just not. And the theory is, well, I want the guy that's the number 1 guy. Yeah, you want the number 1 guy. Do you want the number 2 guy on a crappy offense? A lot of times you don't. Sometimes it's better to have the 4th option in a really good offense. Elijah Moore is a moron. We talked about this last week. He's talking his way out of money, a job, an opportunity. I don't know what's going on there. Corey Davis got hurt. Elijah Moore, Corey Davis got hurt, you idiot. He should have been with the team last week. The Garrett Wilson stuff the hype was out of control. People spent 50% of their budget to add it to him. I said at the time, don't do that. People did it anyway. Now Denzel Mims is back in the house because it's a mess. And it will get better. It's not possible. We'll talk about the Falcons. I don't think it's possible to throw the ball for 118 yards a week and win games. Okay. So it has to get better for the Jets. This offense right now is just about the running back. It's why Michael Carter is so intriguing. Even if he's not, like you're saying, the Breece Hall, he's not. We talked about that in the preseason. But still, he's going to get work. He's going to be heavily involved because this team cannot effectively move the ball through the air. They can't do it.
Yeah, this Wilson thing, Ray, reeks of the earliest days of Mark Sanchez. when the Jets, I mean, people forget, Ray, they were in like the AFC Championship game with Mark Sanchez. And I remember you and I have been doing this for so long. I remember talking about Mark Sanchez, and you hated the guy. You said he sucked. And I was like, well, look at the wins and losses, Ray. For an NFL quarterback, all that matters is now eventually Mark Sanchez turned into Mark Sanchez we know and love today, where he's doing TV. But I look at Wilson, Ray, and you're right, the record's there. But, man, it's going to get ugly. When it gets ugly, it's going to be really ugly.
Kyle, just think about it. Everyone says Justin Fields is the worst quarterback of all time. That's like the universal. Justin Fields is 500% better than Zach Wilson in the fantasy game. 500%. Like, so, and it's so funny.
Yesterday, Ray, he really struggled to complete even the simplest of passes. It was kind of cringeworthy watching him under center.
10 touchdowns, 13 interceptions, a 56% completion rate. And he runs for 12 yards a week or whatever. Like, seriously, everyone smashes Justin Fields at every single opportunity. I never hear anyone smash Zach Wilson. Maybe it's because people have moved on from Zach Wilson, but draft capital-wise, there's not much difference there. One guy's in New York. You'd think they're winning football games, so he just gets a free pass, even though he stinks.
Jets get a win, though, Ray.
They did.
Just win, baby. That's what they did, going to Denver and winning by 7. Let's stay with the late afternoon window, talk about the Raiders and the Texans. Final score there, 38-20. And Ray, I'll just say this. The Josh Jacobs faders are not feeling good today. I saw a number. He has, depending on your league settings and how they score things, I think, Ray, he's got 3 consecutive games of at least 30 points.
He does.
And again, that's PPR, but, pretty well, you're there, 3. Ray, we've had 12 occasions since the turn of the century where a running back's done that 3 straight weeks.
Yeah.
And now Josh Jacobs.
Yep.
A few people have done it 4 straight weeks. I don't believe anybody, like even the great days of Falk and LaDainian Tomlinson and Holmes, nobody has ever done 5 straight 30-point weeks. But Ray, Josh Jacobs is killing it right now. And I don't feel anybody's talking about it. And the talk on Josh Jacobs going back 2 months ago, like literally 2 months ago, is that this guy's a bum and the Raiders don't want him. They don't want anything to do with him. He has done nothing but excel. He's an RB1. He's on a torrid pace. I see in our chat room, what about Zamir White? Here's the thing. If you got White, you hold him. And I realize bye weeks. But Ray, if an injury happens, we don't know if White's the guy. We don't really know who the guy would be for the Raiders. I suppose it's White. But Ray, that's another example. I'd try to hold on to White. I'd still be holding on to him right now if I had, even if I didn't have Jacobs, I'd still be holding on to White and trying to maintain him through the bye weeks. It's difficult, not easy. But Ray, I think that's a situation. If Jacobs were to go down, this team's still going to run the football. That has proven successful. I don't know if it's going to be as good with a non-Josh Jacobs running back, but they will run the football there in Vegas.
Yeah, it's JJ time. Let me say this very simply again. If you have Josh Jacobs and you don't have Zamir White, you are doing it wrong. Straight wrong. You're doing it wrong. Because to Kyle's point, this team is not going to have Josh Jacobs go down with an injury and throw the ball 49 times a week. They're not doing it. It will be mix and match. We'll see Bolden, Amiri Abdullah gets involved. Like it's not White 30 touches.
It's not like a 1-for-1 exchange there.
It's not 30 touches a week, but let's say it's 15. It's a weekly play in this offense. So, and again, I get so tired because this is like half the questions I get every week. It's the same question. Stop playing roulette. Back up your own running backs. Be smart about this. Don't grab other random running backs and hope that the running back one gets hurt. It's not going to work. You might get, Ray, it worked. Like it does work, but it never works. You understand what I'm saying? It's not the odds play. The odds play is to back up your own guy. Number 1, to choose a running back in an offense that's a good running offense. Number 2, to pick up a running back that's the backup to a running back in a good offense. Because this goes back to what we were just talking about. Having the guy in a crappy offense doesn't mean when they turn to the backup that the second guy is going to be as good as the first guy. It's much more likely to happen in an offense that's good at running the football. You want to be involved in offenses like that. This is a scenario that is one of those scenarios. If you have White, to Kyle's point, even if you don't have Jacobs, I mean, he's not doing anything, but if he's getting 15 touches a week, which I feel very confident he would if Jacobs goes down, to Kyle's point, you hold on to him.
Yeah, he has been rolling and rolling and rolling. Josh Jacobs just killing it. I don't know if he's the steal of the draft, Ray.
Pretty close at this point.
Yeah, I mean, you look back to August, and he was tumbling in drafts, and he's been an RB1. So stellar showing by Josh Jacobs again yesterday. Whole Raiders offense looked good. On the other side, Ray, I got this is going to sound weird. I'm kind of disappointed in the Texans offense. It's weird because what'd you expect, Kyle? I thought they'd actually be better this year. And Ray, they're not. I guess I was kind of a Davis Mills believer. He's just a dude at best right now. They don't need like great stuff from Davis Mills, but they're just not clicking. It's like Dameon Pierce and nothing else for the Texans right now. And I know that leads to your takeaway.
Yeah, Ogunbowale had 5 catches yesterday. Mills went for 302, 2 in a touchdown and 2 in a pick. So he had a solid statistical game, but the offense has been very vanilla. It's another one of those offenses where the quarterback's not asked to win games. And for the most part, let's give it a 65% completion percentage and not turn it over. And the odd thing about that is that you look at this receiving core, and Akins led the team in yardage yesterday. Their 14th tight end, excuse me. Ogunbowale had 5 catches yesterday. Rex Burkhead had 5 catches yesterday. The touchdown goes to Philip Dorsett. The touchdown goes to Chris Moore. Where's Brandon Cook?
It's weapons like the Chiefs, Ray. They've got so many options there.
Very comparable, Kyle. Where's Brandon Cooks? What is going and the defenses have always known that Brandon Cooks is the best weapon. So that doesn't work. That's not an excuse. They knew that in the second half when he was going they've known that each of the last 7 years when he's gone for 1,000 yards or whatever the hell it is. Brandon Cooks had 5 targets, 4 catches for 46 yards. That is 5 consecutive games where Brandon Cooks, Mr. 1,000 yards, 5 consecutive games where he hasn't hit 60 yards. This is, they have no weapons. Collins was hurt yesterday. Still 46 yards for Brandon Cooks. So Brandon Cooks was the one piece in the passing game. It was Pierce on the running game. It was Cooks in the passing game. Cooks was the one piece in this passing game that any of us really had any interest in the fantasy game. And he's been Mr. 8 point a week. And, given what they got, given the production they're getting, I don't get it at all, Kyle.
I still believe for the Cooks owners out there, this is not a dumpable player. It might be a benchable player, but I still feel you sent this note about Cooks. I was like, well, let's look at, and you're right. The numbers have not been there. The success has not been there, but I started looking at the Texans schedule, Ray, and it's pretty decent on the back half of the season in terms of teams that are giving up points to wide receivers. So there still might be that saving grace. So folks, I would beg patience, if you will, with Brandon Cooks. I think the touchdowns eventually have to happen. Now, he's not going to finish with 7 or 8 this year, but maybe he can get 4 or 5 here down the stretch, and that'll work. Texans, though, losing by a fairly significant number, 18-point loss there on the road in Vegas. Let's go next to Dallas, Ray. The Cowboys with I would call it a very blah, workmanlike win, 24-6 over Detroit. And what I walked away with is the Dallas defense, Ray. And I get it. It's the Lions. They're on the road. We know the story there. But the Dallas defense, Ray, is just a monster right now. Like they're becoming that defense that does win weeks. And yesterday, the final numbers: 5 sacks, 3 picks, 2 fumble recoveries, only the 6 points allowed. Like, you're looking at a 20-point defense there. And Ray, unlike some defenses where I say, well, that was the matchup, that was the opponent, there was some of that at work yesterday, certainly. But that's like a defense you can ride. I think that is a legitimate defense that is standing out. They're just fast. Like, everything is fast with that Dallas Cowboys defense right now.
Did you know, and they were going at pains to point this out on the broadcast, that when Mike McCarthy had a previous team with a top 5 defense, he won the Super Bowl? But all those other times, his defense wasn't very good. That was why they didn't win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I thought it was Mike McCarthy. It was the defense.
Yeah, right? Yeah. But to your point, it's an exciting defensive unit, and it's an extremely exciting fantasy unit because of the sacks, because of the turnovers, because that's how we record things, right? And they've got big play specialists where you're playing the IDP game. They've got the team context for those of us playing with team defenses. And you're totally right. I mean, this was a matchup against a quarterback that's not good on the road. The number 1 wide receiver went down after 10 snaps. The number 2 wide receiver didn't play. By the way, the Lions did a great job there. DJ Chark missed a month with an ankle issue, and then they put him on the IR with the ankle issue. Great job there, guys. They had DeAndre Swift, who we all thought was going to play. He didn't play with the shoulder. So a depleted unit on the road with Jared Goff under center. Cowboys took advantage of the matchup as they should.
Well, and speaking of that defense, tomorrow night, Lisa Ann and Rick Kamla, they're going to be giving away a signed jersey from that Cowboys defense. Catch Bettor Sports Live tomorrow. This is Tuesday, 8 o'clock Eastern, a Trevon Diggs Cowboys jersey, autographed by Trevon Diggs. You can get that tomorrow night at 8 o'clock Eastern. What was your takeaway from the relatively easy win for the Cowboys against the Lions?
Yeah, I think that was kind of the takeaway. It was a victory, and they moved to 5-2, and that's what matters. Kind of like the Jets, go Jets. But this offense looked like like Dak Prescott. He rolled out early on. He threw a pass to Noah Brown, who didn't catch it, and that was kind of emblematic of what happened. This was like Cooper Rush was still the quarterback. And it's fine. They won the game and all that. And they didn't need to push things because, they were dominating the Lions there. But Dak Prescott returns 207 yards and a touchdown on 25 passes. Yay. It's just, it was more of the same. It was more CeeDee Lamb not really doing anything. It was more Noah Brown than we expected. Dalton Schultz returned from a knee issue, then hurt his knee in the game. But, he had 5 catches for 49 yards. That's nice. But, Kyle, this was just more of the same boring vanilla junk that we've seen from this passing attack this season.
Yeah, and I wonder, Ray, if it's just going to stay vanilla. Like, we think of Dak Prescott and the Cowboys, and we think, they're going to throw. And that's what they did like 2-3 years ago. They were explosive, and Dak was put up. I don't know if they're that offense anymore, Ray. They did a lot of early down running. Explosive offenses do early down passing. That's what made, look at the Chiefs. It's early down passing. That's what they love to do early in games. They're going to pass on first down. And I'm not saying the Cowboys, it's going to be like this just because of yesterday. But as you noted, maybe they found something when they had to kind of scale back, when they had to pull back with Cooper Rush under center. And they said, you know what? Let's play football this way. Because I think they're trending in that direction, Ray, with a lot of Pollard and a lot of Zeke. And sure, there will be the random game here. But Prescott was a guy, Ray, who like 2-3 years ago, you said, wow, that can be a 4,500-yard passing guy. That could. Ray, I don't think he can get to 4,000. And I know with missed games, he's not going to. But I think on a per-game basis, Ray, maybe we're looking more in the 230 to 240 range instead of like the hoped for 270 to 280 range with Dak Prescott.
Isn't it a wild shift? And we talked about this a little earlier. It's a wild shift. 2 years ago in the NFL, we're going to win football games throwing the ball 39 times. Let's go. Now we're going to win football games throwing it 29 times. Like, there's been this massive change in the NFL, which is wild. And, to your point, if it's working, and it is, the Cowboys are 5-2. Their offense keeps them in games. Their defense can win games, to your other point. Maybe this is what they keep doing. And, that would be greatly depressing if we're at 28 passes every week for Dak Prescott instead of 38 because, he was drafted for the 38. It was very reasonable to expect 38, but that's just not what this offense is doing at the moment.
And that being said, Ray, for the Pollard owner, here's the thing with Tony Pollard, Ray. If you got him, you start him. I don't think you can play this game of do I play Pollard this week. I think both he and Zeke, Ray, it's kind of – I still believe this too with A.J. Dillon to an extent. I know everybody's out on A.J. Dillon today. Nobody wants A.J. Dillon. It's all Aaron Jones. But I'm swearing to people, Ray, A.J. Dillon's going to have his moment in this offense. I'm convinced of that. I agree with you. So, folks, you can't be dropping A.J. Dillon. But, with Pollard, Ray, I think you just play him. You just start him. Like, people want to play this game of, is it going to be a good Pollard week? Dude, just make him your flex and be done with it. Take the decision-making out of it and let him play. You just got to roll with it. We never know when he's going to be good, when he's going to be used, how he's going to be used. Like, that's up in the air. But I think every week there is still the opportunity for him to score points. He just has to be in a fantasy lineup.
Yeah, I know everyone got really excited when Elliott hurt his knee yesterday on that low tackle. Oh, my Pollard! Elliott came back. But no, and we saw yesterday, 14 touches for Pollard. To your point, we say all the time, if you're touching it 15 times as a running back, you're in. And you can't guarantee 14 touches a week for Pollard in this offense. But to your point, he touches the ball double-digit times. And as a double-digit guy in the bye weeks with the injuries, he has to be considered for flex every week.
Well, and if people have Zeke and Pollard, and I guess a lot of people do, you play them both. And people act like this, well, what do I do? Hey, you drafted that way, okay? If you drafted that way, you knew going into the season you were going to have the Cowboys backfield. If you didn't want to invest in it, you should have never drafted it. So, yeah, if you got both guys, you play them both. Like, that's the strategy you employed in August. And I guess nobody wants to admit that what they do on draft day has any bearing on the season, but it does. When you make decisions, you're kind of making a decision. You're saying, yeah, Cowboys. I want both these guys. I'm going to play them every week.
Well, it's tough too, because this is like the Packer situation you referenced. This is a scenario where you had to pay. What was Pollard's ADP?
Yeah,
look at the NFFC's ADP. His ADP was 80th. Like, you were spending a 6th-round pick on Tony Pollard. You had to consider him as a flex option, right? It was smart to get both. You should have got both. But to Kyle's point, when you invest that draft capital, unless you've been fortunate on the trade market or the waiver wire process, you have to be considering starting him every week.
From one blah game to another blah game, the Cowboys getting past the Lions. How about the Titans getting past the Colts? 19-10. Ray, I'm trying to remember a highlight from this game, and I can't. I can't. I was sitting there and I saw things, but I don't remember any highlights. What's your takeaway from the Titans and their victory over the Colts?
It's so funny. I'm scanning my list and I had to look 3 times. I couldn't even find the game. I'm like, did I just skip the game?
Did it happen?
Yeah, did it really? The Titans, other than Derrick Henry, have 0 fantasy options, period. It doesn't matter if you're in an 18-team league. No. They got nobody. Nobody. They are the worst 4-2 team ever in terms of the fantasy output we can get from them. The Jets are getting in close, right? Because now that Brees Hall's down. But it's vexing how they continue to win football games, sometimes make the opponent. It's like we hear all the time, they play up to the opponent, right? Titans always make their opponents play down to them. I don't know how they do it. Right? I don't. It's just going on multiple
team, Ray. It's like, if you're a fan of just slugfest football, you better be a Titans fan.
Yeah.
Like, that could be your team, because, Ray, the only excitement is Derrick Henry. Like, when they drop back to pass, like, if I see the pass happening, I just turn the channel. Yeah. Like, there's nothing worth watching there. I flip the channel before I even see the play happen.
Yeah. And, we got Malik was out there yesterday trying to take a handoff, fumbled the handoff, and it's just – the only player, if Malik Willis was under center, and there's an injury to the ankle, of Tannehill. He came back in the game. He's hobbling around. He got stepped on by a lineman. He'll probably be okay. But if they make a change at quarterback at some point, and they won't unless Tannehill's hurt, because again, they're winning games and he's their guy, they're paying him all that. Unless he gets hurt, this offense has one player, and it's Henry, and that's it. I'm serious. It's injury fill-ins, no. Bye week fill-ins, no. There is nothing here, and it's week after week of nothing here. And as we said all preseason, whether Derrick Henry is the old Derrick Henry or not, because of the concerns about the workload, the concerns about the foot, the only way the offense works is if he's touching it 20-plus times a week. He's not only touching it 20-plus times a week, the number's starting to increase. It was 33 times yesterday. Derrick Henry is the only piece in this offense.
Yep, only piece in that offense. On the flip side, Ray, the Colts have pieces, but man, they are hard to love. And I will just point out that Matt Ryan is still the same Matt Ryan. I think some people fell into this like ESPN quarterback worshiping time warp last week that Matt Ryan had figured it out because he led them to a win over Jacksonville. Folks, he went right back to being Matt Ryan, and the Colts went right back to being the Colts. Matt Ryan is at best an average QB. That's what he is now, folks. Mm-hmm. And they don't have enough explosiveness. This is not Calvin Ridley that he's working with. Pittman's fine and all that. I guess when I look at the Colts, Ray, I wonder, is Paris Campbell legitimate? And I would – it doesn't pain me to say this, but Ray, I guess he is. I mean, when you're getting this much love in the last 2 weeks, the targets are like 25 in 2 weeks. He's got to be on rosters, and he's probably ahead of Alec Pierce. I guess he is that number 2 receiver. Despite all that, Ray, it's kind of a PPR play. Because, again, this offense is not going to create a whole ton of points. It's not going to be a big play threat. And I don't think Paris Campbell's really that guy. So it's fine to have him. It's fine to slot him. Make sure it's in a PPR. And make sure if you're picking him up, you're not paying as if he's some kind of explosive talent. He is just kind of a Hunter Renfrow kind of dude right now in this offense.
Yeah, I mean, he's getting Mike Evans, Tyreek Hill workloads. I mean, it doesn't matter if he's any good if that's happening, right? Like we talk about the running backs. Give me 15 touches a week. A wide receiver getting 10 targets a week? Yeah. I mean, Paris Campbell, just in case anyone missed it, the pick 6 that Matt Ryan threw yesterday, Paris Campbell didn't even turn around to look for the football. It almost hit him in the back of the head. Like he ran a route and didn't even look for the ball. So, but Ryan kept going to him. Pierce is the guy that everyone was interested in the DFS game. I think in the seasonal game too. I had Pierce ahead of Campbell in terms of rankings. And I think the defenses agree, right? So they're accounting for Pierce more. Campbell's in that random zone of, we got a quarterback, to your point, Kyle, doesn't have a strong arm. He's not necessarily going to risk throws unless it's to Pittman. He's not going to risk throws to a rookie. So Campbell's standing there going, hello. So Campbell's getting looks. So yeah, he has to be at it. Is he a wide receiver 3? I still really struggle with that, but the workload the last 2 weeks says absolutely yes.
I know for a lot of people, Ray, it's more confusion with Jonathan Taylor. And watching him yesterday, I'll just say this. The dude's hurt. He's not 100%. And frankly, Ray, I don't think he's going to get better as the season rolls on. This is going to be a guy playing through injury, I think, the remainder of the year. So will people get their number 1 or number 2 overall pick investment back? I don't think it's happening. And Ray, I think it's because of injury. I think this foot, this toe, whatever it is, it's causing more issues than he's letting on. He's trying to play through it. The team can be a playoff contender. Everybody gets to be a playoff contender. So he's trying to tough it through. But I look at Taylor, Ray, and I just say, bad luck. Bad luck. Because 10 carries for him yesterday, Frank Reich should be fired. If that's a healthy Jonathan Taylor in this kind of game, you're only giving him 10 carries, you're out of here. Like, you should be fired, which makes me think he's not healthy. He's playing at like 80% capacity right now.
He played 35 snaps yesterday out of 64. He barely played half the time. And he was statistically effective, right? Like he averaged 5.8 yards a carry. Let's not overlook the fact that he set a career best with 7 catches. So he, if you're in a PPR setup, he still was very productive for you. But they're not the Titans. Like, they have more passing than the Titans do, but they need Taylor to be the guy, like the Titans need Henry to be the guy. What did we just say? Henry's not working, the Titans aren't working. If Taylor's not working, the Colts aren't working. It's and until they get him back to working, and to your point, I think it's partly injury too. I totally agree with that. But you're on the NFL football field. This is not, you're the third tight end. You're the number 1 running back. If they don't think you can handle the workload, why would they have you be active? That's a very weird thing, because Taylor has obviously proven to be one of the elites in the league.
And I know, even in the chat room, somebody's like, oh, he's killing me. Should I trade him? That's a really tough trade to convince me of, Ray, because A, I'm not getting back what he's worth. I'm betting on the talent with Jonathan Taylor. And if he's healthy enough to be on the football field, he's in my starting lineup. That's the talent you're betting on. I find it difficult to build a deal where I'm getting rid of Taylor unless I'm truly addressing all my needs. I've got 2 problems on my team, and by trading Jonathan Taylor, I can take care of both of them. If that's what I'm doing, Ray, okay, let's try it. But I think for most people, you're just kind of stuck with Jonathan Taylor. I'm sure everybody can dream up a deal. Would you do? Yeah, okay, I'd do that deal. But in the abstract, Ray, like the overall vibe on Jonathan Taylor, I just kind of think you're stuck with him right now, and you hope it gets better. Cross your fingers more tightly.
Well, let's also be, let's not write the guy's epitaph for his tombstone either. He touched the ball 17 times and had almost 90 yards of offense yesterday.
It's a tough defense, too.
It is.
That's a good defense on the Titans side.
And if you're in a PPR setup, he had 16 points. Okay. Like, that's not killing you. That's not 22, but it's 16 points. If that's a bad effort, that's a win. So, it wasn't the touchdown, right? If he gets a touchdown there, everyone's fine. And everyone's celebrating. Oh, he got a touchdown. He's caught 7 passes. I'm more concerned, as you are, by the lack of just being on the field. I think that signifies something with him.
Let's go from 1 or 2 bad offenses to a third. Carolina, who wasn't the bad offense, they win against Tampa 21-3. Ray, you've got an award to hand out to the Bucs, right? You got an award for them today?
I do. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, please step forward to the podium. You will be awarded with the worst game of football played in the NFL this season.
That is saying, but Ray, are you sure you want to give them that award?
To date. And I also want to give a special, not an honorary trophy, a special second trophy to Mike Evans for the worst drop in NFL history. He was open. I saw this next gen. He was open by 10.9 yards, which is 34 feet roughly, right? He's open by 35 feet, wide open, streaking in the middle of the field. Tom Brady says, can of corn, doesn't zing it in there, lobs it in like he's Kyler Murray, right in his hands. It's right at the start of the game. The entire outlook of this game would be different. Maybe the Bucs win this game, to be fair, if he catches this ball early, right? They score 3 points all game. Right in his hands, drops it. It was the worst drop in NFL history. It changed the entire complexion of the game, and it led to the Bucs playing the worst game of football in 2022.
Think about their last 2 weeks, Ray. They're playing bad football teams, and they lost to both of them. The Bucs. And Ray, they can't even really blame injuries. You know, a lot of times the NFL team, we were injured, this guy. This is awful for that team. And it's like, your head's not in the right space, right? That's what's going on here. This is a team that thinks they can, in effect, just show up and win. Like, we don't need to play or game plan or come with energy or a killer instinct. We'll show up. We got Tom Brady. They're going to quit. The Panthers will quit. Right? The Panthers didn't quit. They got a big win, and amazingly, they had a rushing attack. They set their yearly mark for rushing yardage in a game. I think 173 rushing yards without Christian McCaffrey. Right, we got our first look. Chuba Hubbard, touchdown, but he did get hurt. Donta Foreman, got our first real look at him. He looked good, looked solid. I still don't really change my viewpoint. A, the Panthers still suck. B, their offense isn't that good. Donta Foreman's now the guy, and Ray, here comes the quantity argument. Because of the quantity, you're going to want him. Now, we'll have to see what Hubbard's status is, but Foreman and Hubbard, they're going to be owned everywhere. They should be owned everywhere. I don't think my take, though, changes. We've got two guys, and you're just kind of throwing darts here. Like, yesterday was good. Yesterday was impressive. That Bucs defense had been really strong against the run leading up to that game. So it was kind of out of nowhere what the Panthers did. I think that's going to go down, Ray, as their best rushing effort of the season. Like, we saw the best of this rushing attack for the Panthers, so don't get carried away with either of these running backs, right?
Yeah, the duo Foreman and Hubbard had 31.8 PPR points. Christian McCaffrey's best was 22.4. I mean,
yeah. Why do they call us experts? Everybody thought that was going to happen, huh?
But well, again, and this goes to the coaching staff too. Like, what the hell are you doing? I don't know. Again, this goes back to the Bucs, and I'm not exaggerating for effect here. That was atrocious. Like, that was so bad. There has to be some people calling for coaching firings. Like, that can't happen. What happened yesterday cannot happen. They got rolled by the Panthers, an inferior team in every possible respect, who just traded the heart of their organization out of nowhere in the middle of the week. They got rolled. And they did it with two running backs who, are backup running backs in the NFL, will be backup running backs for the majority of their careers, now thrust into an opportunity. I will say this with Foreman. You take away the 60-yard run, which was a nice run. He broke a couple tackles. You take that away, it was 14 carries for 58 yards or whatever the hell it was. Whoopie-doo. 11 of his carries.
Taylor, Ray. That's
a good point. 11 of his 15 carries were in the fourth quarter. So Foreman really, it was all Hubbard early. Hubbard is the guy I prefer, straight up. Now, he's got the ankle issue. We don't know. Is he going to miss a week, 2 weeks, a month? We don't know. But Hubbard was the guy when the game was close. Hubbard was the guy that was, involved as a pass catcher. Foreman only did his thing yesterday because the Panthers were trying to run out the clock against the team they were stopping. So,
we need to remember that too, Ray. How often are the Panthers going to be up 2-3 touchdowns?
Never. That's it.
Never.
This season.
And that's why, again, you can't get carried away with what we saw from these guys yesterday. It was, it was a pleasant surprise, but it's not going to be a consistent surprise for these guys. That was kind of a one. They'll be fine, Ray, if you have to have them as a flex. Okay, whatever. But I kind of see that as a one-off effort, what we got yesterday.
That's the big takeaway. These guys going into yesterday were flex options. Taking away from the game, they're still flex options. Don't look at what happened yesterday and think that, oh my gosh, now these guys have both got a chance to be top 25. I just don't see that. Probably
the game I saw the most of, regrettably, was Green Bay, Washington. And I guess, Ray, it's because it was like a close one. It was kind of a close battle between two bad teams, really. And this Green Bay thing's getting confusing. Washington wins it 23-21. My takeaway, Ray, and I think we're both looking at the Washington backfield here. I will say this. Brian Robinson is fine. He'll get work and all. You're seeing a rookie who can't hit the hole. Like, I don't know how many times he missed the hole in that game yesterday. Like, he couldn't hit it. Instead, he wanted to keep running laterally, thinking he could beat linebackers. And it will not doom him. But it was so noticeable yesterday that he would get the ball, and he's got the look, and he's got an opportunity here. But there's a lot he's still trying to figure out. And that's to be expected. It's 2 games. But seeing that, Ray, I can't be the only one who saw that. I'm sure the Commanders coaching staff is going to see it on the tape as well. But that kind of leads to your takeaway, Ray. Everybody wants to just gift wrap this job to Brian Robinson. It's not that easy right now with the Commanders.
It's not. And another thing with Brian Robinson is, he's a big dude, right? He's 6'2", 225, whatever. He runs very tall. He runs, it's not the same, but he runs kind of like Derrick Henry. He certainly doesn't run like he's Frank Gore. He's got to get down. He's got to lower the pads, and it just doesn't do it. And so when you don't have the speed to get wide and you're not willing to, like you're saying, hit the right hole, and it's tough. And, many people want Antonio Gibson to go away. There are people that drafted Antonio Gibson that want Brian Robinson to go away. But the takeaway that I have is that, look, this is not a fait accompli that everyone thought it's Brian Robinson time. Let's go. It's not. Antonio Gibson was more involved as a pass catcher last week than J.D. McKissick. He was more involved as a pass catcher than J.D. McKissick again this week. And it was Gibson being utilized in short yardage downs. Gibson only played 6 fewer snaps than Robinson did. He had more targets than Robinson did. He ran more routes than Robinson or McKissick. Gibson is still part of this offense. And we saw him, make a nice catch. We saw him score a touchdown. This one has always been bizarre to me, how a guy in his first 2 seasons in the NFL averages, 1,000+ yards and 10 touchdowns. And they want to get rid of him. It's never made sense. But I think we're seeing from the coaching staff now admitting that as much as we don't want him to be out there, we kind of need to have him out there.
Yeah. And on the other side, Ray, we said this last week. It was very noticeable that Rodgers was hurt. Got to say it again this week. He's hurt. And Ray, his passes were all off. I found it comical after the game where he blamed the pass catchers for like, oh, hey, we dropped 8 passes. Don't look at me. Look at the guys dropping passes. That offense is in a really bad funk. It's totally dead, Ray. Like, I'm stunned how bad it is right now. Like, they should almost just be a Jones-Dillon thing in the backfield, and that's it. Like, they should stop passing. They should go the Mariota route, Ray. And that's crazy to think with Aaron Rodgers, but these guys can't get open. They can't make catches. Rodgers can't be accurate with the passes. Man, it was bad yesterday for Green Bay, and that offense is going nowhere right now.
Yeah. And I have said this for years, and I'm right about what I'm saying. The results haven't matched what I'm saying. Aaron Rodgers' mechanics are horrible. They're horrible. And his ability to be pinpoint with his passes, despite horrible mechanics, is astounding. He drifts on every throw. He never steps into the throw. He never sets his feet. He flings balls. Great touch. He's amazing. But we're seeing
the touchdown throw to Aaron Jones, Ray, was like a thing of beauty. Great throw. It was also a phenomenal catch. Like,
yes, it was both.
And both ends were incredible. And those are the moments you're talking about where, like, it's a tough, really tough throw.
Absolutely.
That's what makes it great. But he does that even whenever he's in the pocket and clean. He's kind of throwing that way.
Yeah, and they show all these highlights of him. And again, he won't step. The offensive line isn't what he's used to. The receivers aren't what he's used to. And what will Aaron Rodgers do above everything else? He will make himself look good, period. It's been that way his whole life. It's why he has all these touchdowns and no picks. If there's nothing there, he's turfing the ball. He's throwing it away. He's not doing it. He's not pulling a Matt Ryan. It's not happening. So what happens with this offense? Nothing. And, you look at yesterday, he threw 35 passes yesterday. He threw 5 passes of 11 yards in the air. 5 of his 35 passes were technically beyond the sticks. 5. This is a Hall of Fame quarterback who's throwing the ball like he's Brett Rippon. Like, he will not make mistakes. He does not want to look bad. And with everything around him, this offense, to your point, Kyle, stinks. And he is not elevating the play of anybody at any point on the football field.
Yeah, it's kind of par for the course, stinky offenses, right? That's what we're seeing a lot of in the NFL. I wish I had been playing teams that had Aaron Rodgers under center and not teams that had Daniel Jones. Ray, I lost in 2 leagues to guys who picked up Daniel Jones for a bye week, and I got crushed by Daniel Jones. Let's go to that Giants win. They're now 6-1. They're still my Giants, right, Ray? Are they still my Giants?
Kyle, 6-1. They're yours. Let's go.
23-17 over Jacksonville. I didn't think the Giants had a chance in this game, Ray. And I guess Jacksonville is very far from where I thought they might be at this point, because they should have won this game. But my God, full credit to Daniel Jones. Okay, I love it. 6-1. You're a gamer, all that stuff. But Ray, 100 yards rushing. And what's crazy is this year, Ray, Daniel Jones, he doesn't have the touchdown numbers, but he's becoming a poor man's Josh Allen. Like that's what Daniel Jones is becoming, right? He is racking up points as a runner. Daniel Jones racking up points as a runner. He's not doing it with his arm. Why should he? He doesn't have anybody to throw to. But Ray, nothing pisses me off more than playing Daniel Jones yesterday and getting 100 yards from the quarterback and you lose by 4 points. And it's because Daniel Jones has like 25 points in the game.
At least we didn't play each other when I started Daniel Jones.
Ugh.
I mean, it's, and this is so funny, right? Daniel Jones as good as Lamar Jackson right now?
He's been better than Lamar Jackson for like a month.
Fantasy wise?
Yeah.
And there were a couple of players that we highlighted in the preseason. And one of them, hey, if you're going to take a second quarterback, if you're in a super flex league, let's look at ADP. Daniel Jones was the guy we highlighted. Now, a lot of people did too. We weren't the only ones.
I didn't highlight him, though, because I said, man, he's going to rack up rushing yards this year.
But yeah. Well,
he's doing this. I want to say it's unsustainable, Ray, but in this offense, he has to do it. Like it's Saquon Barkley and then Daniel Jones running around because none of these receivers are there from week to week. It's a different guy, and it takes like 3 quarters for the Giants and Jones just to figure out who the guy is that week at receiver.
Yeah, and it's not Kenny Galladay, and it's not Kadarius Toney. It's messy. Yesterday, Bellinger got poked in the eye. That's really serious. I haven't seen an update. Let's hope he's okay. He got poked in the eye, was bleeding. They don't have a consistent group of pass catchers. So Jones is doing what he can do. He's an athletic guy. He came out of school with that moniker and all that. We don't look at him as a running quarterback, but as we've joked about many times, when he ran that 88-yard play or whatever it was and he fell over at the end, he had the fastest rushing mile per hour mark of any quarterback in football that year. Faster than Lamar Jackson, faster than Jalen Hurts, the fastest in football. And we saw it again yesterday where he's running along the right sideline. He breaks through a hole and he trips. Can this guy run 40 feet without falling over? Like, he's so
big. He's a galloper.
You know what I'm saying, though? Like, I would love to see him watch him run a 40-yard dash. How many of his strides as he's running the 40-yard dash is he going to miss? Like, but anyway, at the end, he ran for 100 yards, right? He had a touchdown on the ground. He threw for 200, a touchdown on the ground. He, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurted this bitch up yesterday, Kyle. That's what he did.
That's what he did, yeah. And it caused me to lose matchups. And I always like just blaming it on one guy instead of understanding that, he actually had 3 guys go off against me. That's why I lost. No, I'll blame Daniel Jones. What's your takeaway from the Giants' 6th win of the season?
Yeah, my takeaway is that, apparently James Robinson is dealing with an injury of some kind. Apparently. But we didn't hear talk about this before the game. We weren't aware that he wasn't going to be part of the offense. He played 12 snaps. Wasn't even on the field. And Travis Etienne, ran for 114 yards in the touchdown, had another fumble. He should have had 2 touchdowns. He just dropped the balls. He's running in the open field. He, only caught 1 pass. So he had a very James Robinson usage in the game against the Giants. A lot of stuff on the ground, not a lot through the air. But this is Etienne's backfield at this point. He's kind of taken over without doing anything crazy. He's still averaging like 12 carries the last 3 games. It's not huge stuff. And the offense is really wonky, to your point, saying that we thought they were something which they apparently aren't. But Etienne is obviously surging. I was very surprised by the number of people that asked me yesterday, should I start Etienne? We had him like 18th at the running back position in the rankings of Fantasy Guru. We absolutely should have started him yesterday. We had him ahead of James Robinson. And I think that with the effort yesterday, people will come to that realization. But if James Robinson is indeed healthy and he's not hurt, like this is too far because this is a Doug Peterson team. Doug Peterson doesn't go one guy. So keep that in mind. He does not go one guy.
I'd recommend people, if you got Robinson, don't just dump him immediately. Yeah.
No. And Hasty might be a guy to add if Robinson's hurt because Doug Peterson will not funnel 22 touches to one guy and 3 to someone else. Not what he's doing. He's never done that. I don't think he would do that in this instance either.
Got a question in the chat room before we leave this game. Wan'Dale Robinson had 6 catches, about 50 yards, I think, yesterday. What do we think of him? Ray, I think the same thing I thought last week. He's like a bye week fill-in. It's not all that exciting. Can he be on a roster? Sure. Am I wanting to start him every week? Heck no. I mean, this offense doesn't throw enough for me to say Wan'Dale Robinson, start him every week. I mean, I realize people may be there with bye weeks, injuries, and all that, but it's not a target of mine to have a team where Wan'Dale Robinson's one of my starters.
Yeah, I love the ball that went right through his hands, too. That was great. Good job, Wan'Dale. But no, I said this last week. We talked about him when we were discussing the waiver and all that. I'm almost positive I said, if you want 5 catches for 50 yards every week, he's your guy.
Yeah.
He caught 6 passes for 50 yards. That's who he is. And, there are certainly scenarios where, 10 PPR points is a win for some people in bye weeks with the injuries as a third wide receiver or flex. So, as long as you make the move, or if you made the move or what, with the understanding that he's 10 points a week, you should be okay.
Yeah. Let's move along to the Ravens. We were just talking about them. They get a 23-20 victory over Cleveland. Ray, I mean, my takeaway here is, okay, typical AFC North battle, kind of blah, whatever. But this Ravens offense, just a snooze. And yeah, Lamar Jackson's not going right. And I guess that's the reason. Like, if Lamar Jackson's not doing his thing, nothing's working in this offense. But I really don't know how they won yesterday. Like, that was a team that got the victory. And it's one of those Sundays where you walk away and just say, man, let's throw that game away. Let's never watch that game tape again. Because they didn't look good, and they didn't really have any consistency in the offense. I know people are going to celebrate Gus Edwards. That's cool, touchdowns here or there. Everybody will chase after him, but they got to get this offense right. And you were talking about Jackson. The numbers are not there. Like, he's had a really – I was loving what I was seeing from Lamar Jackson like the first 3 or 4 weeks. Mm-hmm. Now we're back to like rookie year Lamar Jackson. It's kind of crazy how that switch has flipped here in the last 3 weeks or so.
It is with the Edwards thing real quickly too, by the way. They're playing Thursday this week. So it's very odd that Edwards, who hasn't played in 13 months or whatever the hell it was so heavily utilized yesterday. Be very cautious expecting another 16 touches 4 days later from him. So something to think about. But yeah, I jokingly said, oh, Daniel Jones or Lamar Jackson. It's not a joke if you look at the last month of fantasy numbers. It's not. And to your larger point, yeah, Mark Andrews is probably the story with no catches. He played almost every snap and had no catches. Lamar Jackson ain't getting it done, folks. He bet on himself. Where's all the he bet on himself talk?
We heard it's on Josh Jacobs now.
Is it? Okay, all right. The he bet himself talk stopped a month ago. I mean, Lamar Jackson threw the ball 16 times for 120 yards yesterday. He was Marcus Mariota yesterday. And before you say, oh, it's a one-off. Is it a one-off? 6 of the 7 games this year, he hasn't thrown for 220 yards.
Yeah.
6 of the 7 games this year, he hasn't been anybody. He hasn't been Jimmy Garoppolo. Like, that's how bad this is. The only thing, and it's the saving grace because of the way we record fantasy scoring, we all know that, is he runs another 59 yards. I think he's run for 58 yards in like 6 straight games, right? He does it every week. He's got 3 passing scores in 4 games. So he is bottom quarter in the NFL in passing right now. The last 4 games he has played, it's the elite rushing that's keeping him afloat. But they got to fix this offense. To your point, Kyle, it's not working very well.
Well, and I didn't see a ton of this game. I was kind of red zoning it, so they'd go to it when it was worthwhile, which wasn't very often. But Ray, I was asking about Andrews, because I kind of looked at it and said, well, he had the knee designation. Maybe he was in and out. But every time I saw a play, oh, Mark Andrews is out there. So maybe I was just seeing. So I was asking you today, the dude was out there every play. Like, this was not an injury thing, or maybe he was just purely a decoy, but it's astounding. And 0 catches, all that stuff. But this was a team, Ray, that the Ravens should have been able to throw on. Like, this is a team where the passing yardage should have been there. This is a team where Andrews should have had 6-7 catches. He had nothing. Jackson couldn't top 100. Like, that's a team you're supposed to be able to throw on, and they did none of it. Now, Gus Edwards was kind of the standout here. And, again, I think he's available, Ray, like everywhere. So people are going to race to the wire for him. I would tread lightly on Gus Edwards. My reasoning behind that, Ray, is yes, okay, J.K. Dobbins is out and he's going to miss time. But the top running back is still Lamar Jackson. And they have other guys that they will make use of. They're obviously going to find Kenyon Drake a few carries. They're going to find Justice Hill a few carries. So the Gus Edwards stuff was great yesterday, but I would tread lightly. Like, I'm not going all in. That's not a typical 2-touchdown game where that guy's got the job and every week I'm going to get 12 to 15 carries out of him.
Yeah, and again, if you're going to add Gus Edwards, you should have done it last week. Like we say this, you got to be proactive. We all knew he was coming back. We knew that J.K. Dobbins had the knee injury. Even if you didn't know at the time you were making a move that he was going to miss a month, maybe more, you should have added Gus Edwards last week. Now everyone in your league is going to go pay for a guy that had 2 touchdowns. Everyone in your league.
And I'd let him.
Well, people that don't even need running backs are going to pay.
Everybody can put a bid in, but I'm not going over the top for Gus Edwards.
And again, let's be very clear about this. Gus Edwards will not be involved in the passing attack. Gus Edwards is coming off. He's going to play this week again with 4 days, or 3.5 days before the game plays. So the workload this week is uncertain. And don't forget, if you look at yesterday, 17 snaps for for Drake, 20 snaps for Hill, 23 snaps for Edwards. They used 3 running backs almost interchangeably yesterday. Now, Hill fumbled late. Drake didn't do anything. Edwards was the most productive, and he's the most burly of the backs if they're looking to move the chains. But Justice Hill's looked pretty sharp this year, too. So 3 running backs all utilized the same way, a running back that is not going to be involved in the passing game, and a running back you're going to have to pay through the roof for after 2 touchdowns. I'm not saying don't add Edwards. If you can add him, sure. But again, you should have done it last week, and there are still concerns moving forward about 3 guys being utilized in the backfield and Lamar Jackson doing his 9 carries for 60 yards every week.
Yeah. And, somebody's 2 and 5 in the chat room. They've got number 1 waiver priority. Again, if you want to use it on Gus Edwards, you can. I just don't think you've got a starting running back here. I don't believe. Gus Edwards to me is going to be one of those guys who's probably going to be more painful to own than he is enjoyable to own, just because you're going to be guessing every week.
Well, he's 12 carries for 60 yards every week, and then it matters if he scores a touchdown.
Yeah.
And because if he's lucky, he'll catch 2 passes.
Yeah, but he could get game scripted out of an offense, right?
Absolutely.
If a guy gets a hot hand and Kenyon Drake is rolling, I mean, Gus Edwards disappears. It's just not a firm role for him with the Ravens.
He's a flex option, but you don't want to overpay for a flex option.
Yeah, 23-20 the final there. Ravens win it. The only team in the early window to top 25 points. Kind of crazy to say. Cincinnati, that's up next, Ray. They win it 35-17. That is one offense Ray did exactly what you hoped they would. They were playing Atlanta. You should pound the Falcons, and they did do that. For me, my takeaway, Joe Burrow rolls. Looks good. Everybody that sharp. Last week was sharp too. Understand, last week was New Orleans. This week is Atlanta. Those are 2 bad defenses. Like he should be rolling these defenses. Then I got to looking, Ray. Week 8, they have Cleveland. Then they have Carolina in week 9. They have Pittsburgh in week 10. We are going to be in a Joe Burrow month. Like, this offense should put up big numbers. We're like in game 2 of 5, where the Cincinnati Bengals offense, especially in the passing attack, should put up some numbers. So whether you got Higgins, Chase, Burrow, hell, even Tyler Boyd, these guys should put up numbers here. So this is kind of the beginning of some good numbers, I think, for the Bengals moving into November.
Yeah, we were just talking about Lamar Jackson, who can't throw for 220 yards. Burrow threw for 480 yesterday. He more than doubled the game from Lamar Jackson. And he also had a rushing touchdown, did Burrow. There's obviously some concern about, Jamar Chase and his hip, his leg. Is he 100%? What does that look like moving forward? But, this offense is a really good offense. And it did start slowly. Burrow had all those picks at the beginning. The offensive line was wonky. They made all the improvements in the offseason. It didn't help. It's working. They're finally gelling. And you've talked about this. We've talked about this for years. You can get the pieces on the offensive line, but really, you got to play together. You got to work it out. It seems like the offensive line is working it out. Joe Mixon continues to get huge workloads, but that's the next piece. They've got to get more consistent on the ground. Mixon far too often is 15 carries for 60 yards. Nothing's happening. They got to improve that, but the passing attack led by Burrow looks terrific right now.
And yesterday was 42 passes, Ray. I bring that up because that's kind of the key thing for Burrow. His rookie year, they let him throw like crazy. Last year, they really scaled that back. If you look at this season, Ray, they've kind of gone back to the heavy pass look for his numbers. I mean, yesterday was the first time since week 1 that he was over 40 pass attempts. So he got to 42. But all the other weeks, Ray, 36, 36, 31, 35, 37. Last season, we were kind of more in that 30 to 32 range with Joe Burrow. This year, we're more into that 38 to 40 range, which is a huge, huge advantage for anybody who drafted him because we're getting a lot more production because they're throwing it. I mean, if you multiply that over the 17 games, Ray, we're going to get an extra like 120 passes for Joe Burrow over the course of the season.
Yeah, and there's as good as they could theoretically be on the ground and as effective as Mixon is and all. You have Joe Burrow, who is legitimately one of the best quarterbacks in football. You've got Higgins. You've got Chase. We saw Boyd take advantage of a matchup in the slot yesterday. You've got weapons. Hayden Hurst is showing it. Like, it doesn't make any sense to try to restrict the passing attempts of Burrow like it does potentially with some other quarterbacks.
Yeah. Well, and look at the numbers. Last year, he played 16 games, 520 pass attempts. We played 7 this year, so not even half as many games. And he's at 270. So by next week, he'll be at, roughly speaking, let's say we'll go with 305. that'll put him on pace, Ray, for 610 pass attempts versus the 520 of a year ago.
90 more.
And if he plays a 17th game, you're going to be at like 650 versus the 520. So that number is a big component of Burrow. If you could have told people coming into the year he was going to throw the football 625 times, he probably goes as a top 3 quarterback. He probably would have landed in that spot solidly. Right now, we're getting the passing numbers. The 15 touchdowns. He's over 2,000 yards. He has still been getting sacked. Like, he still takes a beating. 24 sacks this season. It's a big number, kind of a worrisome number for Burrow. What's your takeaway from the big Bengals victory?
Well, the real takeaway is Arthur Smith, all his good coaching, everything should be fired. I mean, that's the real takeaway here. You're getting rolled by a team early. Was it 21-3 or 21-0? What the hell was the start of this game? It was over at the start.
Yeah.
They threw 13 passes. They gave up. They gave up. Yeah. And, if Marcus, and we've said this before, we talked about Josh Fields a lot earlier in the season, right? If you don't trust your quarterback to throw 20 times in 2022, you need to give your backup quarterback the ball, period. If they don't trust Marcus Mariota to throw the ball more than 13 times in a game they are getting rolled and have no chance to win by handing the ball to Tyler Algier and Caleb Huntley. No chance to win. Zero. I don't even know. I don't need Next Gen to tell me zero. When you have no chance to win because you're behind by 3 touchdowns and you throw the ball 13 times, you need to fire the head coach and you need to change quarterback. Because as an owner of the team, I'm going to sit down with Arthur Smith and say, you explain to me how you gave up. Tell me, why should I keep paying you money because you gave up yesterday? Well, no, you gave up yesterday. You didn't try to win the football game. Marcus Mariota.
Ray, let me just say, they lost by 18.
Yeah.
They scored 17.
Right.
And let me just reiterate the number you said, 13 passes.
Yeah.
Like, think about that, people. You're getting blown out. You're not scoring points. You threw fewer passes than your deficit and fewer passes than your total points scored in a blowout. Ray, really, the attempts should be flipped.
Yeah.
Mariota should be at 42 pass attempts and Joe Burrow should be at 13 when you look at how that game went down.
3 of 4 games, Marcus Mariota has not thrown the ball 20 times. In the last 2 games, he is 2/3 of the way that Joe Burrow was yesterday in passing attempts. He's thrown the ball 27 times in 2 games. They beat the Niners. Okay. So, Ray, they're 1-1. Yeah, they are. This is a team that doesn't try to win football games. They try not to lose.
Yeah.
And
it's great. Isn't it crazy, Ray? Like, every year we'll have these offenses that are pop gun offenses. They don't throw much. Right. 1 or 2 of them. I feel like this year, Ray, it's 7 or 8 of them.
It's everyone. Yeah. It's a quarter of the league.
Like, we're in an era where for like the last 30, 40 years, Ray, it's pass, more passing. This year we've scaled it all back. And I guess when it happens that dramatically, that drastically, like we're seeing, you have to point to the quarterback play. They're just not good enough, I guess would be the answer. These coaches, they don't want to run this much or pass this little. They just don't have the pieces. They just don't have the quarterback that they can rely on to throw the 35 times a game.
And I said that earlier in the show today. 2 years ago, you threw it 39 times a week to win. Now teams are throwing it 29 times. It's bizarre. It's retrograde. We're going in the wrong direction. And, there's a question in the chat room about Ritter. I mean, again, I don't know how you defend to your team, to your fan base, to your owner. I don't know how you defend throwing the ball 27 times in 2 games. I don't know how. We would literally have to go back into the point before television for that even to be moderately reasonable, right? I don't know how you look at your team and say that, well, sorry guys, I know we're getting killed yesterday, but we just, no. So
how does, if you're Kyle Pitts, Ray, how do you keep showing up to play? Like, this has got to be the most depressing Sunday that you can. I mean, Kyle Pitts is just running, never gets the ball. When he gets the ball, it's within 2 yards of the line of scrimmage. Mm-hmm. Like, this season is a real joke for him. And you're right on Arthur Smith, the head coach. What the hell, man? Like, I don't know, they're covered or it wasn't in the game. You suck, man. You're the Falcons. You're terrible. Get the ball to London and Pitts. Like, why is this so difficult to just throw these guys? I don't care if somebody's draped on them, Ray. Throw them the football. They haven't done it once this season. Like, they're 0 for 7 in like getting Kyle Pitts involved for a full game. They haven't done it once this season where from quarter 1, 2, 3, 4, he's getting attention. He's getting opportunities. He's getting targets. They failed in every single game. You can't tell me the coverage has been that stellar on Kyle Pitts every single game. This is on the coaching staff, right? Get these guys involved in throwing the football.
Well, the last 5 games, the Falcons have averaged 18.2 passes. Joe Burrow completed 34 passes yesterday. They've averaged 18.2 passes. Drake London, who hit 50 yards each of the first 3 games of the season, right? He came out, looked good. He had the connection there. He's averaging 25 yards the last 4. They stopped throwing. They stop. Pitts is just running, like you're saying. I mean, hey, everyone's got to do their thing, right? I know how I get. You know how I get. If I was there knowing I could help a team, knowing I could help an offense, and I'm not just even given the opportunity, I'd be furious. I'd be furious. I gotta have the
targets. Look at Pitts. Like, do you have routes run for him? Can you see routes run?
I can look. I'll look it up.
He's got 12 targets in the last 3 weeks. 12. He's got 7 catches. He's got 53 yards. Like, Ray, honestly, tight end's a mess. We all know that, right? You can't drop this guy, but those numbers scream drop him, don't they? They just scream drop Kyle Pitts right now.
Well, look, number 1, you can't drop Kyle Pitts. Number 2, as bad as it is, we have to get past I paid a 3rd or 4th round price for him. You got to get past that. Okay. We have to get to where is the tight end position, and are you going to drop him to go pick up Chris Myrick? Like, what are you going to do? So I don't think he can be dropped.
I think if somebody says I'm dropped, you got to trade him. I'll tell you this, Ray. If somebody came to me with Kyle Pitts, I'd trade for him.
Yeah,
I'd take a shot on the talent.
I would too.
I mean, I'll give you my 5th receiver for Kyle Pitts. I'd take that shot. So if you want to be done with him, that's fine. But, Ray, find a trade partner. Just don't give them away to anybody who jumps on the waiver wire.
Yeah, absolutely agree with you there.
Nobody wants them. We're told nobody wants them in the league. Wow. Wow.
But again,
I would totally want Kyle Pitts in any league right now.
But again, and I say this, like, what are you going to do? Are you going to turn to Mike Gesicki? No.
Probably.
Are you going to turn to Mo Alley Cox? No. You're going to turn to Cole Kmet? I hope not. Are you going to turn to Will Dissly, Isaiah Likely, like Foster Moreau, who's only playing because Waller shut? Like, what are you going to do? I mean, yeah, Taysom Hill. Thanks, Doc.
That's what
Taysom Hill's already been added everywhere because he's going to revolutionize football. And again, this goes to my point of, at what point do we look at Arthur Smith and say, yeah, you're 3-4 and your team's not very good, so 3-4 is not bad. But at what point are we going to look at you and the coaching staff and say, what are you doing? Like, what you're doing is not working. A 9-year-old knows that. What are you doing? And to have weapons, and again, coach and quarterback, if Mariota has to be protected to this much, they might as well just get rid of the job. Let him fling it around. If he throws picks, he throws picks. But this is bad football. It's horrible football to watch, and it's depressing in the fantasy game.
Yeah, and the sad thing is they somehow have, what do they got now? 3 wins on the year?
Yeah, 3-4.
And Ray, if they were 1-6, this QB change happens. Like, they could get the same Marcus Mariota, but if they're 1-6, they're going to Ritter. As bad as Mariota has been, they're 3-4, and that's why they won't make the change, Ray. They're like under this delusion that they're actually a better team than they've shown lately. No, you're not. You're a terrible team. Like, make the switch. Man, I just keep looking at these Pitts numbers, Ray. He hasn't even made 180 yards of receiving this year. 180 after over 1,000 last year. Are you kidding? Like, what the? There's got to be an explanation. Like, if I were in that press conference in Atlanta, Ray, every week I'd ask, 7 weeks in, 8 weeks in, 9 weeks in, 10, where's Kyle Pitts? Like, why is this so difficult? Yeah, that's a point. Is he the biggest bust of the year, Ray? Kyle Pitts? For a guy who's been healthy, no injuries, nothing. He's been out there playing. Biggest bust of the year? Kyle Pitts, 2nd round pick.
Najee Harris has been pretty bad.
Yeah.
For expectations. I guess DeAndre Swift is hurt, so I'm just going through the ADP. DeAndre Swift has been hurt, so okay. Deebo Samuel's had some nice games, but Leonard Fournette forgot how to run for 3 yards the last month. Mark Andrews has had 2 games in 4 where he hasn't got to 20 yards.
It's Pitts, though. It's Pitts.
Keenan Allen's been hurt. if you look at ADP, I think for a guy that's been healthy, Pitts would be the leader at his draft point.
Yeah, and I guess he's missed one game here. He's played 6 of the 7. So, I guess you could say, there was an injury, but when he's out there, he's just not. Like, at least those other guys, Ray, they're getting the football.
Right.
Najee Harris is at least getting the football 15 times a week.
Well,
we're not getting anything with Pitts.
Yeah, Pitts, and I looked this up to discuss. The last 2 games that he's played, he's seen 12 routes and 13 routes, which leads you to think, oh man, that's horrible. But they're throwing the ball 14 times. So he's running around, and this is the thing too. Like if you look at his percentage of targets for the team, 23%, 11% crappy, 50%, 33%, 23%. He's got an elite target share. He's seeing 25% of the targets.
Yeah, 25% of 15 though ain't much.
So the numbers, and you got to hunt for them, but they're, he's been targeted on 30% of the routes he has run, which is top 6% in football at the tight end spot. So it's just this team doesn't throw the ball. So again, at some point, Arthur Smith has to realize this, don't they? Doesn't the coaching staff? They have to. Because again, if I'm the owner, if I'm Mr. Blank, I'm going down there this morning and saying, you need to explain to me what you're doing right now, or you're out tomorrow.
Yeah, explain to me why our last 2 first-round draft picks, both guys taken in the top 10, are entirely uninvolved in the offense. Like, what is going on? Both these guys, it's like we didn't even add them. We're throwing to Alameda Zacchaeus.
What do you think Jerry Jones would do if this happened?
Oh, gosh.
So we'll see.
Okay. Enough laughing about Atlanta, how clueless they are. Miami, we got to finish with that. Sunday Night Football, 16-10. What a way to finish off the Sunday of football, right? With the best thing about this game were the Dolphin uniforms. Let's just say that. Let's just put it out there. That was the best part of this game. I never tire of the Dolphin jumping through the hoop with the helmet on. It's just epic. It's the best emblem, I think, in the entire NFL. They've moved to that more stylized thing, which I miss. Obviously, this has nothing to do with the game. I'm just saying that was the most entertaining part of last night's game. Takeaway here, Ray, Najee Harris, can't live with him, can't live without him. Najee Harris, you can't bench this guy. Trade, you're probably getting 70 cents on the dollar for Najee Harris right now. I have said this every single week. Every time we talk Pittsburgh, every time we talk Najee Harris, I'm convinced he's hurt. I've been saying that since the preseason. He looks hurt. There's nothing here, Ray. This is kind of like Jonathan Taylor right now. I saw Jonathan Taylor. He looked a lot like Najee Harris last night. It's just, and I get it, the blocking and the team and everything. They can gang up on Najee Harris. I don't know if it's going to get a whole lot better. Surely there will be at least one game where he can hit like 80 yards and a touchdown. Surely that's going to happen at least once. But I just don't think it's going to happen with any regularity, Ray. It's just it's a plod. It's a drawn out ordeal with Najee Harris right now in this offense.
It is, and I loved how on the show last night they keep talking about Jalen Warren's going to see his role increase. He's not going to see his role increase, folks.
Not as long as Harris.
Yeah, can we just admit that? Can we stop with that nonsense line? It's not true. Okay, he's going to get his 6 touches a week. That's it. It's Najee Harris's backfield. Period. Problem is the offensive line isn't good. And Mr. Pickett, they're giving him a chance, but he's Mr. Turnover at this point. Like, this offense just isn't working. So it's another one of these scenarios. You're totally right. Like, you can't look at Harris and say, my God, he touched the ball 20 times and be pissed off. But we still are. It's remarkable. He's getting 18 to 20 touches every week. He's not doing anything with it. This offense is stuck in the mud.
Yeah, and I got to say, I know you want to give your take, and maybe I'm going to stick, but Tua, slide, okay?
Oh, that's not my take, but yeah,
okay.
right?
Like, seriously, Ray, he's like trying to take on defenders.
He lowered his shoulder on that one run. Yeah.
It's just like, come on, man. Okay, what's your takeaway from this trudging affair?
Yeah, Pickens is a thing with Pickett. Deontay Johnson gets his 10 targets, catches his 5 balls, does nothing. Okay. Pat Freiermuth is a thing. And we were just talking about the tight end position. Freiermuth had 8 catches for 75 yards next week. Pat Freiermuth is the top 5 tight end the rest of the way. I'm calling it. I'm just calling it. And it's not going to be anything remotely close. He's miles away from Travis Kelce. But it's 12 points every week for him. Boom. Count it. And when these other guys can't get 7, Freiermuth gets work. He's going to be utilized in the red zone. They obviously trust him. I mean, that's the state of the position now. So a guy you drafted 11th at the position or whatever it was, you got a top 5 tight end the rest of the way. It's just going to happen. This position sucks. Guys are hurt. There's no consistency. He's catching 5 passes for 50 yards every week. Give me those 10 points, Kyle.
Yeah, I mean, once you find a tight end, Ray, who can give you a decent effort once every 2 weeks, you just hold on to him. Just set it and forget it. And part of it is because we all have other issues. Like, do I want to spend every week going through the Rolodex of tight ends and putting in 5 bids at $2 a piece on 5 different tight ends? Nobody wants to do that. That's not a way to live. We're worried about wide receivers and running backs. So if you find a tight end with a pulse, just hold on to him. Just keep him. Don't play the matchup. Like, Ray, I think I've got Gerald Everett. I don't even bother looking at snap counts or anything, or like, is there a better tight end on the, like, I don't even look at the other tight ends, Ray. I don't even consider it. And maybe that makes me a horrid fantasy football owner. I don't know. But it's like, once I've got a guy, Ray, who is like involved and I just let him be. I don't even like the kickers. Once you got a guy who is, I don't even know if my kickers are doing well. I said this a couple of weeks ago. I don't even know if they're doing well, Ray. I just want to see they're getting points every week. I'm probably blowing it. I'm probably leaving points on the waiver wire. But it's like, once I got a guy, that position is like the least of my concerns. I'm worried about running backs and wide receivers. I don't want to worry about these other positions. Just brutal there. But anyway, 16-10. I don't know. That was an easy game. I got to say, after a long day of watching football, Ray, I was very close to just turning that game off in the third quarter. Like, literally, and the only thing that kept me coming back were the uniforms and the scoreboard, because it was like still a semi-close game, so I couldn't. But I was like, Ray, I had my thumb hovering over the power button multiple times to just say, call it a night. Let's get some sleep.
I don't blame you. Sunday Night Football too. I don't know. Maybe it's because I start so early on Sundays, but I've been watching the Sunday Night Football games to kind of, same thing, right? Yeah. It's like, it's just, okay, let's do it. Let's get it over more than, let's watch this football game.
One thing I do enjoy about it, though, Ray, is after an entire day of like scrambling around following 5 or 6 games at one time, or 7 or 8, as it may be, it is nice to just have one game. Just to sit there and enjoy that one game and not have to constantly be checking the computer, red zone, all these other teams. Just one game to lock in. Unfortunately, it was Dolphins and Steelers last night.
Great uniforms, at least, Kyle, for you.
Great uniforms. Dynamite uniforms. Okay, there it is. Our weekly 100-minute sojourn through everything that happened on Sunday. I thought it was going to be shorter this week, Ray, because we had like 2 fewer games.
Mm-hmm.
But I was wrong. I was dead wrong. There it is. Everything we thought about the day that was. Now, what else is on the menu? Not much else. We got like an hour and 20 minutes to go. There ain't much. We got a lot of injury news, and Ray and I talked about a little of it there during our recap. We do have some updates to get to you here on Monday. Things dealing with DK Metcalf, a few other guys. So we'll get you those injury updates. A lot of things to worry about, I think, going into this week. In terms of other side dishes, we've got the lunch hunch coming up. Duke's Den is going to be with us. So we'll get all the general football stuff. If you've got any questions, comments, or whatever, throw them up in the chat room. You can always call us, give us a yell there. If you want to ask about something, hit that call button. We'd love to see you, hear from you as we go through the remainder of what we have on Lunch Money. Ray, let's get to our bet du jour. You got anything you're feeling on this Monday? It looks like you're feeling baseball on this Monday. We got our World Series matchup, Phillies and Houston, just as everyone predicted.
Absolutely.
Philadelphia against, everyone
absolutely.
knew that one was coming all season.
Nope.
You got a bet on this one, huh?
I do. My bet du jour is let's just take it, man. Let's ride the wave. I don't think they're the better team. I don't think they have the better pitching. And they certainly don't have the history. But the Phillies to win the World Series at plus 160. Let's go. Let's make it more of a Cinderella scenario. We don't need the Astros doing it. No, let's go Phillies. Let's give Bryce Harper his moment in the sun.
I'm surprised that number is not more long shotty. I'm kind of because the Astros, Ray, I mean, hot knife through butter right now. And that team is just kicking tail. They're that pitching, Ray, they're like the only team in the entire postseason that doesn't have a bullpen game, really. You know, they just roll with guys. It's pretty impressive. I would think that number would be more like plus 180 than the plus 160.
I think it was minus 185 for the Astros. So it is a little surprising the number isn't a little bit higher for the Phillies. I would agree with you.
My bet du jour is for Monday Night Football. We're not going to forget about that one, even though you might want to. Here's what I'm saying. Take the under. It's 40.5 points. And Ray, I'm not necessarily saying the Patriots won't score. I think the Patriots can score the football tonight. I just don't have any hope for the Bears. I keep looking at this game and the angles and the players and the matchups, and I'm like, I don't even know if they get to 10 points. I don't know if they can get there. So take the under. It's 40.5 is what we have. 40.5. I'll take the under minus 110. Dessert today, we will talk about joy riding gondolas. That's right. You can joy ride gondolas. Ray and I have been on a gondola before, I think, haven't we?
In Vegas with Kay Adams, yes.
Yeah, we rode a gondola. Drink special. What do you have on this Monday, Ray? Any good stuff that you enjoyed over the weekend that you're going to show off a can or two?
Yeah, actually, and I drank this yesterday, and it's non-alcoholic. We went to World Market, and World Market obviously has a bunch of different things there. If no one's ever been there, it's an interesting store. It's an energy drink. It's a Mandarin orange energy drink, and you're going to love the logo on this one, Kyle, and you're going to love the name. Carabao, let's go.
Wait a second. Isn't that that's an energy drink. Yeah, I've seen that.
Have you seen this?
Yeah, I've heard of Carabao. They're like a lot of European stuff have the Carabao going.
And see, that's
is it a European company?
That's the interesting thing. So I didn't grab this off the shelf. My gal grabbed this. She's like, "Oh, Ray, you've never tried this. You can use it on your show. Oh, look, it says football." And then I said, she throws it in the can. We get to the checkout and the gal's scanning it, and I'm like, "Wait, football? Is that soccer?" Because this year, and it's it's Carabao
Cup. Yeah, our chat room nailed it. They do the Caribou Cup, which is like the club tournament there in England.
Yeah.
Is that what we're talking about there on the back?
Carabao.co.uk. It's like, oh yeah, this is so you can win tickets with this. But they're 4 games that are played thousands of miles away across the ocean. The bottom line is the drink was solid, nothing fancy, but it wasn't quite the home run that my gal was expecting it to be, because it is indeed European football, aka soccer.
Okay. Is it taste any good?
Solid. Solid. It's very similar to like an Orange Crush.
Okay. Yeah. Ray, I'm taking a page out of your book. I actually saved the bottle.
Okay.
So I could show it off. I had way too many of these this weekend, by the way.
How's that? How many?
Way too many. They were tasty. And these suckers, 16 ounces, 8.0. These were good. Stalipa.
Ooh, okay.
It's that brewery, Urban Chestnut, is an ace brewery here in town. They make very good stuff. Now you might say STL IPA, St. Louis, but Stalipa is what you actually say.
Oh, I was
just an IPA. It's a big bottle. Look at this thing, Ray. You put a whole ship in this thing. Good stuff, right?
Is it a pint? Is that just?
Yeah, it'd be a pint.
Okay.
About 16 ounces, a little over maybe.
Yep.
But this is good stuff, but you only want to have 2 of them. I had 5. So
why only 2? Come on, Kyle, you're a man. You can handle 5.
No, you only want 2 of them, Ray. I did 5. A man does 5.
Okay.
But you only need 2 of them. I did save this one. The other ones I threw against the wall. You could shattered them.
Kyle. By the way, Work and Grind said that he thought you were anti-IPA.
No. I've never been anti-IPA.
Oh, okay.
I'm anti. If I'm anything, it's probably stouts. I'm not really into stouts, oatmeal junk, all that crap. But IPA, I probably drink more IPAs than anything.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm fine with the IPA. See, Ray, this is how rumors start.
That's why I asked you to clarify.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you for allowing me that moment.
You're welcome.
Break here. Get to Duke. Yeah, he's been waiting around the whole time. So we'll get to Duke in his den. A lot of injuries. So get your tissues, because you're going to have some tears coming up in the next segment. A lot of guys to run through, and the news is not all that good. I'm going to be honest with you. We'll be back after this Duke's Den right here on Lunch Money.
Afternoon, bettors. Happy Monday to you. It's your boy Duke back and better than ever. My fantasy guru to Duke's Den. Bit of an up and down weekend for us on the bet. Of course, college football. We had some UFC, and just to run through those, we hit our Makhachev Oliveira under 2.5. Unbelievable main event for UFC 280. But we do lose Petrosian inside the distance and Mikhaev TKO finishes, but didn't quite get there. So the Makayev was plus 240, Petrosian minus 105. So we do turn a slight loss there. Over on the college football side, NFL, though, we under 49.5, squeak under 27-21. We lose over 66.5 in the LSU Ole Miss game. 45-20 is just a point and a half short of where we need to get. I didn't see Ole Miss being the side. That is the issue. And by the way, considering how good LSU has after that Tennessee blowout, maybe Tennessee is the real deal. All I know is down here in Atlanta, my Bulldog fans are getting a little nervous about that game here in a couple weeks. Also, UCLA plus 6.5, don't even come close. Bruins couldn't overcome that huge second quarter from the Ducks there, so we lose that. But Ohio State minus 29, easy winner. I put it out Friday morning on my Twitter at DukeDFS. This should be 40 points. They end up winning 54-10. They would have covered the 40, let alone the 29. Smith and Jigba, Maya Williams both back in. Surprise starters for the Buckeyes there. Get home early. Also gave you the Raiders in Survivor. They pull away 38-20 with a massive fourth quarter. They go 4 touchdowns and top it off with a pick 6 to absolutely blow out the Houston Texans, even though it was shaky there for a little bit. Personally, we have the Pats. Speaking of Pats, how about the old quarterback for the Pats, Tom Brady? Let's talk about old quarterbacks real quick. I know the guys did a huge breakdown of all your action there from Sunday, but only thing undefeated this year is Father Time. Aaron Rodgers, horrible. Packers, horrible. Horrible. Life's a mess. Getting divorced. Can't complete a pass. Horrible. They lose to the Panthers. Don't score a touchdown for the third time in his career. Then how about the Colts? Matt Ryan throws 2 picks, 243 yards. They lose 19-10 for the Colts. I'm not saying we just fade these teams because quarterbacks are old. I'm saying we need to look at everything going on with the teams and consider the age as a factor. The Packers completely out of whack. They're, I think, a bad team. Sit second in the division, but I think the Minnesota Vikings are going to end up winning that. Because of how terrible their division is, could still win the division, but it's an issue. When I saw play of the game, that long pass that would have been a walk-in touchdown, I knew they were in trouble. Fade old quarterbacks on these bad teams. Monday Night Football next hour.
First and 10, toss to Walker, goes right side, has a little running room. Parkinson out front. Here comes up the sideline. He's on the run, 40, down to the 30. They're going to catch 10, 5, touchdown! Seahawks, 74 yards. The Seahawks get the ball on downs. They toss it to Ken Walker III. He gets fired out of a Gatling gun, and he is gone.
It's always lunchtime here. Now back to Kyle Elfrink and Ray Flowers.
Seahawks radio with the call there. Kenneth Walker, a guy who got his job and is now firing out of a Gatling gun once he got that job. Looking good. Now the question becomes, who is the next Kenneth Walker? Might it be Michael Carter? Might it be Donta Foreman? Who might it be? That is the question. We welcome you back to Lunch Money. Ray, we're always looking for the next Kenneth Walker because we always have injuries. They just keep happening on and on and on. We got a lot more going on with injuries. But before we get to injuries, we do have some breaking news. This comes from Indianapolis. This is pretty shocking, is it not, Ray? This is, we were just talking about Atlanta. They won't make a QB change. Indianapolis, they don't have that problem, do they?
Well, I'm glad the league where I picked this guy up, I kept Matt Stafford. According to Mike Chappelle, who works for CBS 4 and Fox 59 there in Indianapolis, the Colts are making a change at quarterback. Matt Ryan is being benched for Sam Ehlinger, and he will start this week. So, wow. I mean, again, you can't fire the coach. I guess you also, as a quarterback, you can't make them give the ball to the best player on your team, Jonathan Taylor, but you are held accountable when things don't work. So it seems like Matt Ryan's headed to the bench. And, Kyle, if you make that change now, they're not moving back unless Ehlinger gets hurt, right? Like, it's over for Matt Ryan. barring an injury. If that's
Well, we're even hearing Nick Foles is the backup now. Like Ryan, Ray, he may not even be dressing come Sundays now. For
might be the emergency quarterback. Like, I mean, again, we've talked about this and how, the Colts have been so disappointing. Like it's just been so disappointing. The offense is wonky. They've had Leonard out on defense, which hasn't helped their best player, one of the best defenders in football. But I don't know. Is this an overreaction? I mean, they scored 10 points. I mean, they're 3-3-1. This is not a good, I don't think this is good for the offense. Maybe it's what they had to do, but I don't look at Ellinger and think that all of a sudden now, oh my gosh, now the offense is being unleashed. I don't get that sense.
Yeah, it's a move, Ray, that screams desperation and nervousness. Like this is a coaching staff that says we're going down. Isn't that what's happening here? I mean, last year was a total blown chance with Carson Wentz. This year, I remember distinctly, Ray, in July and August, like all of the love letters written to Matt Ryan out of Indianapolis. Like everybody was fawning over him, the players, all the writers, everybody. And here we are in week 8, going into week 8, and he's going to get benched. It's shocking. Now, I've said on a couple occasions, Ray, he looks shook. Like he looks gun shy for whatever reason. Maybe he's injured here. Maybe yesterday we finally got the final, the straw that broke the proverbial camel's back or what have you. But this is kind of crazy to make this move. When you go to a guy like Sam Ellinger, Ray, that's kind of a move where you say the season's over, and we're not going to make the playoffs. Like they're not in the thick of it. I mean, they're not a playoff team right now, but they're almost right there.
Okay, so again, this news is literally happening real time here, and this happens frequently. Not disputing the benching of Ryan, okay? But Joel Erickson, who writes for the Indy Star, is now reporting that Ryan has a grade 2 shoulder separation. He will not practice this week, and he will not even be active. So we'll see how this gets.
Benching as much as it's an injury.
Yeah, right. And Ryan did have a shoulder. You saw him yesterday. He took a hit. He got landed on. So the initial story that he's getting benched may not be accurate. So the statement I just made about them not being able to turn to Ryan the rest of the season, not accurate. It seems like he is hurt. That's the reason for the change. And again, the grade 2 shoulder sprain, there's 3 grades generally with these things. A grade 2 sprain could be 2 or 3 weeks. It could be 6 weeks. It could be a while for Ryan on the sidelines. So he will not be even active this week. It'll be Ellinger again, backed up by Nick Foles. And we're seeing Nick Foles at some point, aren't we, Kyle?
Yeah, probably so. You're probably right. We always get to see Nick Foles at some point. That's always happening. Wow, kind of sudden. We didn't hear much about an injury, nothing like severe to this level. But that is now the report that it's not a benching as much of an injury. His shoulder, as Ray said, grade 2 separation. So that's going to knock him out for multiple weeks. We'll see if the Colts actually put him on IR. That's one thing, Ray. Can we just put these guys on IR like these NFL teams? Last week I was complaining that the Cardinals waited until Thursday to put Marquise Brown on the IR. Kind of screwed with my fantasy team, ruined my fortunes. At least they did it because, has a partially torn hamstring. I don't think he's playing this week either. We have DeAndre Swift. Why isn't he on IR? Who else? Oh, Dak.
DJ Chark, Kyle. The Lions took 4 weeks to put him on the injured list. 4 weeks.
Bad. Let's get injuries. Breece Hall rate sounded like an ACL done for the season, right? I mean, we don't have confirmation, but for anybody who thought, that's how.
Adam Schefter recently did confirm it. Okay. His season is over, torn ACL.
Okay, DK Metcalf knee. Pete Carroll did talk about that this morning, right?
He did talk about that, and we're still in the we don't really know zone, but he says he's not going to require surgery. We heard the initial testing was negative. We don't know how much time, if any, he's going to miss, though.
Got to be like I'm thinking like some sort of knee sprain or ligament sprain probably going on with Metcalf. Wouldn't be surprised if he's out this week. Mike Williams, I'm hearing ankle, but it could be like anything lower leg, I guess, with Mike Williams, but that's not looking good for him either this week.
It's not. And, the Chargers are on bye this week, right?
Yes, they are. Yeah, they're on bye. So maybe he'll be back in 2 weeks.
Maybe, but to your point, it didn't look good. He didn't look good coming off the field, and it seemed like there was a lot of concern after the game about him as well.
Got Chuba Hubbard with an ankle. Amon-Ra St. Brown left with a concussion. David Njoku an ankle, and that one, Ray, is going to cause some tight end shuffling because this is not a play it by ear situation. We're going to miss weeks with David Njoku.
Seems that way. Now, again, how these things change, but that's kind of what we're sensing right now. And this is, you drafted Mike Gesicki. He sucked. So you went to David Njoku. You fixed the problem. Now David Njoku's hurt, and you got to go back to Mike Gesicki. This is what I'm talking about. We need to jettison the tight end position off into the sun. I've said it repeatedly. That's my term, jettison off into the sun. But yeah, it does seem like, Njoku, who was really kind of their offense yesterday, really, it looks like he's going to miss some time with an ankle sprain.
Let's see. We got Alan Lazard was not available late in that game yesterday. He's dealing with a shoulder problem. We got, Russell Gage, hamstring, Ryan Tannehill, ankle, Dalton Schultz, knee, Mike Boone, an ankle injury. And Ray, I guess that was severe enough that Denver went out and added Marlon Mack. Man, the Broncos are just bringing back all the golden oldies this year, aren't they? Latavius Murray and now Marlon Mack in our life.
Yeah, if it was 2018, they'd have a smoking roster. This is... I get it. Boone, there was concern after the game too that it's a multi-week thing with him. They started Gordon yesterday. Gordon had the most work yesterday, and of course, Lat Murray was used as the goal line, so that was real helpful. So they're bringing in Marlon Mack, and it's even possible he's active this week.
Yeah, I know we got a question in the chat room about Van Jefferson. Ray, I guess they've been targeting this week for his return. I lean to saying he probably will be active. I would caution anybody thinking that will solve the Rams offense. Van Jefferson, Ray, has kind of been hanging around the periphery with the Rams for years, and there's some weeks where we get excited about him. The consistency's not been there at all for Van Jefferson. So at best, that guy right now is a bench receiver. I mean, that's like a wide receiver 5 or 6 for me at this point with Van Jefferson.
Yeah, Van Jefferson, I think, is really, and I've said this previously, we talked about Odell Beckham and what he brought to the field. It's not that Jefferson goes out and catches 5 for 75 every week, but the element that he brings to the offense, the ability to stretch the field and open things up for the rest of the offense is extremely important. Because Ben Skoranek does some things, but he's Ben Skoranek. Van Jefferson is like a legitimate, we have to worry about him as a defensive team. So I think that his return would help the offense tremendously. I think that if, something were to happen to Allen Robinson, as an example, Van Jefferson would be very sexy in the fantasy game, but it's more about what he does for the offense than necessarily what he's going to produce on his own.
Yeah, we'll see as we get closer to the weekend, but I wouldn't be saying, I'm going to plug and play this guy, get him in my starting lineup immediately. We started the segment with the Matt Ryan news. We will end the segment with some Matt Ryan news. Sounds like all the reporting was kind of right, Ray. There still is an injury to Matt Ryan, but Frank Wright, this is... again, Ray, this doesn't play really well. The coach, what did Frank Wright say? Was this on the radio in Indianapolis?
Yeah,
I guess, talking about it?
107, the fan, Kevin Bowen, is reporting this. That Frank Reich basically said that the move was coming whether Ryan was hurt or not. And that the plan is for Ellinger to indeed be the starter the rest of the season. So a team that still is in the playoff hunt, a team that's 3-1 is waving the white flag. This is really, I mean, maybe there's something personality wise or something off the field, but that's never been a Matt Ryan thing before. This one's very, very strange, Kyle.
Yeah, it's alarming. And Ray kind of speaks to a coaching staff that is kind of going down with the ship here. It's pretty scary. Now, I wonder, it's gotta kill Pittman. We were talking about Paris Campbell.
Yeah.
That can turn off now. I mean, Jonathan Taylor, I guess it can only get better. It can't really get worse. But Michael Pittman and Campbell and Pierce and all these guys, they're kind of, you still have to start Pittman, and I'm sure Campbell will still get picked up. But all expectations have really been lassoed by this decision and by this move at QB now for the Colts.
Yeah, and what is the offense going to look like at this point? It's one thing. Yeah, Adam Schefter's reporting it too. It's what he said. It's so funny to me because you look at the quarterback play that they have gotten of late. Is Matt Ryan any different than Phillip Rivers? No, it's the same guy, right? And they were effective with Phillip Rivers. Ultimately, they didn't get to the promised land with him. They made the move to Matt Ryan. Has he been effective? Nah, you can make the argument no. But does this give the team a better chance to win? The coaching staff has determined yes. I find that fascinating. I really do find that fascinating. But it's not, again, really a benching, but it is. So what does this do for the offense? Well, is the offense going to throw the ball 45 times a week still?
No.
Is Michael Pittman getting 12 targets a week still?
Nope.
Is Paris Campbell getting 12 targets a week?
No, none of it.
So It's now going to be a lot of tight end crap. It's now going to be a lot of Jonathan Taylor. That would be my expectation with the announcement of this move.
I mean, I look, Ray, they are 29th in points this year. 29th, and that's with Pittman and Ryan and Taylor and now Sam Ellinger. That's going to be the move. And remember, just a week ago, Ray, Indianapolis was going crazy for Matt Ryan. 34 points. They beat the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yeah. Boom.
And now it's gone. And Ray, it's got to be personality driven. Like, that's of all the bad quarterbacks who are still holding on to gigs right now. Matt Ryan, I never looked at him and said, "Oh God, Zach Wilson deserves a job, but geez, get Matt Ryan out of there." It really doesn't compute there. But hey,
he's never been a backup. He's getting paid $1 gazillion regardless.
Yeah,
it's strange.
Pretty alarming. But Matt Ryan has been bench/injured. Sam Ellinger is now your quarterback. And as has been pointed out, it'll be Ellinger versus Heineke this week.
Wow. The NFL continues down the train. Actually, not down the train. Down the drain with crappy football.
Yeah, this is like week 15 stuff, though, Ray. That's usually when we get the Ellinger versus Heineke matchup.
We're not even halfway through the season, and we're getting this crap on a weekly basis. It's so disconcerting.
Very disconcerting. When we return on Lunch Money, let's get you set for Monday Night Football, shall we? Fields versus maybe Mac Jones. Our Fields versus maybe Bailey Zappi. We'll tell you which way the winds are blowing on that, give you our take on everything you need to know for Monday Night Football. We'll do it next, right here on the Bettor Sports Network.
Bettor Sports Live with Rick Kamla. That's Sports Network.
Andy Reid, current coach in the NFL. He's better than Belichick. Belichick has lost his way. He's better than He's better than Harbaugh. He's better than Shanahan. He's better than McCarthy down in Dallas. He's better than all of the gangster NFL coaches, right? From Buffalo, he's better than all these guys. Andy Reid is the greatest gangster that we have at head coach in the NFL right now. And I understand that you're saying, well, Belichick is the GOAT. Can't. Stuff. Bill Belichick can't draft anymore. Okay, talk to me. Nick Chubb, Sonny Michel. Talk to me. DK Metcalf, Debo Samuel versus N'Keal Harry. Okay, talk to me. This dude has lost his way. Remember the year when he should have bottomed out and just tanked, but he couldn't, and he went and got Cam Newton, and they were a mediocre team, right? He's lost his way, and he can't coach up a good defense and that kind of thing. But overall, he's lost his way. Andy Reid's an absolute badass. Draft great. He's a great coach. Makes the right decisions, when to go for it, when to kick, when to punt. The guy's the man.
The Playbook with Fensty and Ronis, presented by FantasyAlarm.com.
I hate the stupid unsportsmanlike conduct. As long as you're not disrespectful to the opponent, you should be allowed to celebrate.
How I used to say it, and to bring up, because now basketball's starting to bring up personal.
Oh, dude, it's even worse than basketball, isn't it?
So Dikembe Mutombo, who used to get teed up in the 2000s, the 90s, they didn't give a crap. Tighten up the rules. They used to tee him up more when he went to catch a finger wag. But they wouldn't to the crowd instead of looking at like Eton Thomas, like one time I remember, and doing it right to him, or when his back was turned, doing it right to him. Crowd, they would never call it. And so that makes me wonder if these players, while they want to talk a little smack, maybe they should then at the player who they're standing over.
I guess.
I know it's soft, man.
It is soft.
Because you know what?
Like we're gonna give 15 yards for that.
Bro, they think that, want to know why? They're paranoid. They think that's gonna turn into a fight.
See, I disagree with that. That's not gonna start a fight.
I agree with you. They don't agree with
us. It's one thing. Okay, if you spit in someone's face or say something derogatory, like about their family or something,
right?
Yeah, that can incite it. But if you're just like, play what? You know what I mean? Like, again, they know the rules. You got to know you're going to get flagged. You have to have discipline. But, like, I don't know. I have no problem with celebration as long as it's not disrespectful. It's interpretation, and that's my problem. Watch, it's going to cost someone in a big playoff game, and that's when people are going to go crazy. There'll be a third down play. Someone makes a pass breakup, and they're in someone's face. They're going to throw a flag. It'll extend the drive. That team scores, wins the playoff game because of it. You need something drastic for it to really leave an imprint, and I hope that doesn't happen to my team.
Bettor Sports Network is betting, fantasy, collectibles. It's sports talk done better.
still wants the shotgun snap. He takes it, looks to his left. Good protection, fires into the end zone for Paris Campbell. Yes, sir! Touchdown! Paris Campbell in the back of the end zone from 4 yards away, and the Colts are on the board.
It's always lunchtime here. Now back to Kyle Elfrink and Ray Flowers.
Well, if reports are to be believed, we're not going to have many, if any, Matt Ryan touchdown passes for the remainder of the year. That was the call on Colts radio from earlier in the year, a couple of weeks back. If you're just joining us here on Lunch Money, Matt Ryan will no longer be leading the Colts offense. There's a little bit of injury here. We're hearing about a shoulder, but there's also a lot of ineffectiveness here. Frank Wright said they would have made the move to Sam Ehlinger regardless. I was just looking at Matt Ryan's stats, Ray. Think about this. He's completed 68% of his passes. Good. Just that number, fine. He leads the NFL in the number of completions. Did you know that? Who leads the NFL? It's Matt Ryan. So, Ray, we are benching the guy who leads the NFL in completions and who is completing 68% of his passes. That's who we're benching. He's not great. I get it. Fantasy-wise, he's barely a QB2. But, Ray, you cannot tell me with a straight face, and I guess Frank Reich is trying this, that they have a better shot with Sam Ehlinger than Matt Ryan.
Well, Matt Ryan does have 42 fumbles, which doesn't get factored in there.
9 interceptions, too.
Yeah. He's 20th in QB rating, 23rd in QBR from ESPN. These are not definitive numbers, but they speak more, I think, to the overall performance of Matt Ryan. Now, again, how much of this is play calling? How much of this is losing Jonathan Taylor? How much of this is losing Naheem Hines? How much of this is, the situation just with the team, game flow, all this kind of things? Like, there's a lot that go involved into this. And, what's surprising now that we get 5 minutes to think about this, what's surprising about this to me is the way this all came about here in the last 10, 15 minutes, right? Mm-hmm. Why not say Matt Ryan's got a shoulder issue. He's going to miss some time. We're going with Ehlinger, and we'll see when Ryan's healthy. Why make the announcement that, he was getting benched anyway? Why
pile on? It's almost like we're done with this guy, throwing him under the bus.
Yeah, I mean, are they going to release him tomorrow? It's really weird because there was no reason for it. And not like Frank Reich, to your point with, we haven't heard a lot of, crap from Matt Ryan over the years. When has Frank Reich ever raised his voice? Like, he's not that kind of a guy. So this is really weird, the timing of everything. Maybe more comes out and we'll see. But yeah, he has not played well. I'm not defending Matt. He's not played well. But to think that they believe that the rest of the season they have a better chance to win without him is still surprising to me.
Yeah. He leads the NFL in fourth quarter comebacks.
There you go. That's something.
He's got 3 game-winning drives this season, Ray. Like, what more do you want from the guy? Somewhere Arthur Smith is going to call it Frank Ryan and go, you think you got QB problems? Look what I'm dealing with here.
I'll take Matt Ryan back if you want to give him to me. Let's go.
And we still won't use Kyle Pitts or Drake London. So there is the news. Matt Ryan is injured, but Frank Wright said they were going to bench him regardless. Sam Ehlinger is now your quarterback. Nick Foles is the backup. That'll be one open spot now on your roster. If you had Matt Ryan, you can move on. You can dump him. Rarely, Ray, think about this. Like literally 6 days ago, he was kind of an ad on the waiver wire.
I mentioned this. It was either the league I had Wilson or Stafford, one of the two, and I had to add Matt Ryan because injury in a bye week. I forget which league off the top of my head. And I think I spent $9 of my $100, which is not a big number, but a total waste, right? Like it's just in the toilet now. It sounds like that's a tough one.
Well, that's a surprising bit of news that came out. Another surprise yesterday, Ray, and I think you saw the video. I saw the video too this morning. The referees following the thriller between Tampa and Carolina. There's video that you can find on the interwebs. Ray, the referees tracking down Mike Evans, not to return like a glove or a missing towel or anything, or say hey about that player. Ray, the referees tracked down Mike Evans in order to get an autograph from Mike Evans after yesterday's game. Referees soliciting autographs from players that they were just refereing following yesterday's contest in Carolina.
It's
2 of them.
Yeah, gambling, Calvin Ridley, gambling is the thing, right? But this is, legitimately right there with it because And I wonder what the NFL will do, because if you have any concerns about the legitimacy of the game, and there are a lot of people out there that think it's fixed anyway. There's a lot of people that think that, because the game's half point here, half point there on the spread that always works, the whole thing. You cannot have this. And Jeff Mann's my buddy over at fantasyguru.com. He got mad at me years ago, and he's told this story many times, and I look terrible because it's true. He told me, we were interviewing Dan Marino and Joe Montana, and I put the football down to take a picture. Montana signed the ball, threw it in the bucket. I lost Jeff's football. And he's like, why didn't you ask him to sign it? And I'm like, Jeff, we're media. I couldn't do it. This is Ray Flowers at a FanDuel event 8 years ago doing this.
With Joe Montana. That was your childhood hero.
My childhood hero, exactly. And I'm giving that up. And here are NFL referees day of asking for autographs. I mean, it's just this. And again, this is catastrophic for the NFL.
And it wasn't hidden, Ray. This was like in the tunnel right off the playing field. This wasn't like behind the scenes. The referees went into the tunnel to slow him down to ask for an autograph.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I legitimately would be shocked if the NFL doesn't fire the referees, because you just can't mess around with this. There's a lot in the NFL that's right below the surface. I don't know whether it's gambling money or it's the mafia. I'm not Mr. Conspiracy. It's right below the surface. They can't have overt things like this going on. I'd be surprised if they don't get fired.
Jeff Lamberth and Trip Suter. If you've never heard of those guys, it's because they're not the main ref. They're like field judges or something. But still, soliciting autographs from the players. And I know, Ray, what they're going to say. It's for a charity. Like, that's what we're going to hear.
Doesn't work. Doesn't matter.
That doesn't matter. We shall see. Okay, let's get into this Monday night football game. Coming up tonight, just after 8 o'clock Eastern. Got the Patriots hosting the Bears. As we sit here right now, Ray, I think the expectation is that Mac Jones is under center. It's not totally confirmed, but, reports around, Foxborough and everything dealing with the Patriots have kind of trended in that direction. There is some dispute if it's the right decision. Where do you fall on that? Here's what I think. Everybody loves Bailey's, that cool name, all that. You get a win. Everybody loves the backup, as you always say. Mm-hmm. Mac Jones hasn't done anything to make you think he can't be a starting quarterback in this league. Like, he just had an injury. You bring him back out there. So I don't really get the dispute. I would guess if they lose tonight, Ray, like if they somehow fall on their face in this game against the Bears, then maybe Bailey Zappi's quarterbacking next week. But as it is, I think Jones absolutely belongs under center for the Patriots.
Yeah, this to me is one of the problems we have with sports, if we're being honest. The Patriots chose Mac Jones last year 15th overall. They chose him to be their quarterback for the next 12 years. That's why they drafted him. And he plays a game that's kind of rough. The backup does a couple of nice things while he's hurt, and we're going to bench him. Get out of here. Get out. It just doesn't make any sense. It makes no sense whatsoever. If there's a personality thing going on, because we've heard that about Mac Jones, a lot of people have suggested that Mac Jones thinks he's the S. He's a big fan of himself from the sound of things. Not that most players aren't, but it's really crazy to me that this is even a thing. And I think it's a generated story that's not real. He's the starter if he's healthy. Come on.
Yeah, they're favored by 8.5 tonight. Over under is at 40.5. Moneyline has New England minus 350, Chicago plus 290. And Ray, let's cut to the chase here. I don't think we're going to get much scoring here. You can see it in the over under. Like, these offenses, about the only thing as I see it that if you're a fan of running the football, maybe you get a good game tonight, because the Bears actually can run the football. The Patriots can certainly run the football. I would almost be surprised if we get, Ray, do you think we get 50 pass attempts tonight combined between the two? I'm going to say no.
I would say no, because that would be basically 25 each.
Yeah.
30-20. I mean, that
ain't happening.
Yeah, I'd take the under at this point.
Yeah, so if you've got 100 and let's say 50 snaps in a game.
May not be that many with this one, though.
Yeah, maybe 140. We'll go with that number. Maybe 140. You may get 9-5 on the ratio of runs to pass. We'll see. I guess punts would be in there too, and field goals. You might get those as well on your snaps. The Bears, I mentioned their strength is running. The Patriots have yet to allow a rushing touchdown this year. So we'll see how that plays out. And we should also note Bill Belichick, if he wins tonight, he will move into second place for all-time victories. That is including the playoffs, which is kind of weird to me, Ray. Like, I always thought the coaching victory didn't include playoffs. Like, most wins, that's a regular season thing. But
Right.
I guess to make this a storyline tonight, they're including postseason and regular season to say he will be the new number 2 all-time winningest coach.
Yeah, well, I thought this a couple of weeks ago too. That Aaron Rodgers had thrown his 500 touchdown pass. He's thrown 460 touchdown passes, but they included the playoff ones to make it a better story.
When did that change? Is that normal now in these record games?
Not in any sport other than the NFL trying to create a story. No, that's kind of completely separate. Yeah.
We always like to give our favorite prop for these games. So, Ray, what's your favorite prop between the Patriots and the Bears tonight?
Despite the uncertainty at quarterback and how many passes are going to be thrown, there's one guy with the Patriots that's going to catch passes. It's Jacoby Myers. And he's a minus 115 to go over 51.5 yards. He's hit 55 yards in all 4 games he's played. He's actually 7th best in football with a 41% of his team's air yards. Think about that. Of all the players in football, he's 7th. Now, again, it's not a huge volume, but he's 7th. And he's also 5th in football in target percentage. So he gets all the looks when they pass the ball. He produces 55 yards every week, 51.5. We're taking it.
Yeah, but they're not going to throw the football more than 26 times tonight.
That's all right. He'll get 9 of those targets. He's good to go.
Okay, I'm going to take it. I haven't done this all season. We've done a lot of props here on the show. I've never gone this low. Ray, I'm taking the under for Justin Fields' touchdown passes.
Ooh, okay.
0.5 is I'm taking the under. 0 touchdown passes for Justin Fields. A plus 120 call. Taking the under there. I think, and I'm not, this is going to be like another example of how horrid the Bears offense is. I think the Patriots have a really good defense, a solid defense, a strong defense. I think they're going to eat the Bears alive tonight, Ray. Like, I'll be surprised if the Bears can even put 14 points on the board tonight.
Jeff Manns said this, I think it was on the Sunday show, where he said, look, all I know is that Bill Belichick has been saying a lot of nice things all week about Justin Fields. Every chance he gets, nice things about Justin Fields, which leads me to think if I was Justin Fields, I would run and hide in the hole because there's no chance he's having success. There's no, if Bill Belichick is talking you up, that means they're going to torch you on game day. So I get what you're saying there.
Yeah, he's coming for blood in this game. So I'm going to take the under on half a touchdown. My player to watch, I'll say Mac Jones. I was talking about how he should be the quarterback. I do wonder where his health truly is, Ray. And we may still get a Patriots surprise here where we get to the actives and he's inactive. Like the Patriots may pull that crap again because you can never trust their report. But Mac Jones is going to be my player to watch because there is a fan base there that is probably looking to boo. And if it is bad tonight, again, I think Jones should be the guy. But if it is bad tonight, you will absolutely have a week of hearing about Bailey Zappi and how he should be the quarterback. And they may actually make that change going into week 8. I don't think they should. I don't think it's going to happen, but it could happen if he struggles tonight. Who's your player to watch?
My player to watch is another guy that is supposed to play, but it's Damian Harris. And it's really interesting because I feel like Damian Harris went down with an injury and everyone was in with Stevenson. I get it because you should have been, and he rewarded that faith. But they're out on Harris. Like somehow people have gotten this misconception in their head that Damian Harris returns and he's getting 4 touches a week. Like I don't understand that at all. Damian Harris, as we've talked about a lot, he is the Alan Lazard of running backs. He scores a touchdown all the time. He's got 3 touchdowns in 4 games, does Damian Harris. He's got 18 touchdowns in 20 games. He's not disappearing from the offense. I'm going to watch him. I'm very likely to see if he plays him get those 12 touches and that opportunity at the goal line. I'd like to see that.
Since Ray sold me on Jacoby Myers, let me just say my fade, Tyquan Thornton. Like, don't go there, people. You should not be starting this guy. I don't care what he did last week. Ray, he is last week's Marquise Goodwin. That's what Tyquan Thornton is. So just bail on him. Don't touch him. Fade him. He's miserable. Move on. Maybe miserable. Miserable's a little strong. He's not miserable. He belongs on the Bears receiving core, right? That's where he belongs.
Yes. I think that's absolutely a fair statement.
Did you get any Tyquan Thornton questions?
I
yesterday?
did. I got 2 yesterday. Legit. I got 2 of them. So
Don't touch him.
touchdowns get you in the news, Kyle. I guess that's how it works.
I guess so. Marquise Goodwin's in the news. You're totally right. Who's your player to fade?
My player to fade is David Montgomery, and this goes to what you're talking about. I think, if I had David Montgomery, would I start him? Yes. Is he still a running back 2 this week? Yes.
Yeah.
But I'm fading him. You know what I mean? Because this is a tough matchup. Patriots are allowing the 3rd fewest points to running backs. As you noted, no rushing touchdowns this season. How much is their offense going to sustain things tonight? Difficult to see.
Okay. Watchability, Ray. What'd you come in with? 1? Did you go 1?
I win a 2.
I went a 2 as well. I did the 2 as well.
Yeah, there's storylines. I'm still a Justin Fields guy. It's always Bill Belichick. Something odd is likely to happen at some point. I went with the 2.
You say you're a Justin Fields guy. What's that mean?
He's on my dynasty team.
Okay.
Well, I'm a Justin Fields guy because I think that, I said this earlier, we talk all about Zach Wilson. We talk about Mac Jones. We talked about Trey Lance. Everyone talks about Justin Fields and just says he sucks. And it's like, I don't think that, is he any different than those other guys? Not really. And his ability to use his legs and his ability to challenge defense. I mean, this is Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson-like. Probably Deshaun Watson's a closer comp. Like, he could become the next Deshaun Watson. He might fail miserably, but he could become that. Zach Wilson's never going to become that.
Yeah, it's amazing with all these guys, right? It's like you better win and create from the get-go. There's no time to screw around in the NFL as a quarterback. Like, the book can be written on you really quickly. And Fields, it almost feels like everybody's already written him off, like you said.
It's weird.
And what's he got? Less than 15 starts right now? I got to look that up. I mean, he hasn't even started a season's worth of games, I don't think. Maybe he's right at 16 or so.
16.
But it can't.
Yeah, 16.
Okay, what do the numbers look like? Read me his numbers through 16 games.
11 touchdowns, 15 interceptions.
That sucks.
Very much Zach Wilson. 58% completion percentage. Slightly better than Zach Wilson. Still sucks. He's averaging only. So this is the thing. Yards per attempt. It was 7 last year. This year it's 7.6. So it's going up a little bit. I think they're trying to rein him in a little too much there. His QB rating is 73, which is awful. His QBR is 33, which is awful.
Woo, 33?
Yeah, it's really bad. But, then you look at the rushing piece. And, for his career, he's averaging 6 carries and 39 yards, which isn't sexy. It's not. But it's there. I mean, and that's 4 points. And in traditional scoring, if it's 25 yards for a point, he's starting every game with 100 passing yards. If it's 20 points, and then it's even more of an advantage. 20 yards, then it's even more of an advantage. So, that's the game we play in fantasy. Even disappointing play for him can still have him in the 12 to 15 range at quarterback because of his ability to use his legs.
Yeah, well, it seems, Ray, you talk about that ability, and it's there. But this coaching staff, and even Fields to an extent, they don't seem to be particularly wanting of him to scramble around. Like, it almost seems like they really restrain him and say, you're going to be a pocket guy. We're not risking you. Whereas we've seen some other teams out there be much more willing to kind of let their quarterback do all those things. And, eventually we'll make him a passer, come year 2, year 3. I don't know if this is fair, but I feel like Fields is a guy who is much more comfortable almost staying in the pocket. And we kind of scratch our heads and say, why isn't he getting out more outside the pocket?
Well, a lot of it, the pocket collapses and he's scrambling, right? He's carried the ball at least 7 times every game, at least 8 times in 5 of the 6 games. The last 4 games, he's gone at least 7 carries for 47 yards each time. Lamar Jackson's 10.59. It's not that far off. If it was 10 carries a week, he'd be right there yardage-wise with Lamar Jackson. That's the truth. So he's finding enough time to use his legs to give that boost to his value. The real problem is he's throwing for 170 yards, right? And 1 touchdown or 0 touchdown. So he's in that Daniel Jones zone. Like, when it goes right and he throws for 201 and then he runs for 58 yards, he's a top 10 quarterback. When he throws for 170 and 0, he runs for 50 yards, he's quarterback 18. So he's a tough one to obviously trust in the fantasy game. But even with all the concerns and the struggles and the crap-ass offense, he every week could still put up a QB1 effort with his ability to use his legs.
Well, and I'm looking at the last 3 weeks, right? And they're all losses, and the point totals are still pretty bad. Like, 12 points, 22.7 points. They're pretty ugly. But Ray, he is over 20 pass attempts in all 3 of those games, which is much greater than it was in the first 3 games. And in the first 3 games, the guy had 45 passes. He was averaging 15 a week. He has been at 22, 21, and 27. Maybe they let him get to 30. Maybe they come to the realization we aren't doing him any favors by only having him drop back 15 times. Let's drop him back 25. Let's drop him back 30. That'll be something to follow tonight because it's pretty dramatic. The first 3 weeks versus the last 3 weeks, kind of how they've used him and what they've asked him to do in this offense. His results are still, middling at best, but they have put a little bit more on his shoulders in the last 3 weeks.
Yeah, and his QB rating the last 3 games is still not great, but it's 87, which is much better. His yards per attempt is 8.2, so it's up. They're letting him to stretch the field a little bit more. And then there's the success on the ground. So, we talked about this in particular. I railed against this team early. Now I'm railing against the Falcons for doing the same thing. If you don't trust your quarterback to throw the ball 20 plus times, he shouldn't be your quarterback. And that's how it is. If you don't trust him to do that, they're barely trusting him to do it now. But to your point, it's greatly increased over the start of the season with hope for more to come.
Yeah, I think we'll probably get into the 20s tonight. I don't think it leads to much scoring, though, for the Chicago Bears. Okay, we're going to check in with Duke one last time. Let's get some more ideas and thoughts and props and wagers from him. When we come back, got to get you our lunch hunch, and then we'll go through the positions. We'll talk a little bit more about injuries, too. We've got more news coming in there. Again, if you're just tuning in here to the Bettor Sports Network, Matt Ryan is out as the Colts quarterback. You can say it's because of injury, or you can also say he would have been out regardless. That's what Frank Wright, his coach, said. He said, regardless of the injury, we were going to yank him for week number 8. Sam Ellinger is your new quarterback. Safe to say, Ray, no waiver bids need to be going in that direction, right? You'd rather have PJ Walker.
PJ Walker, who has been the announced starter, regardless of the health of Darnold or Mayfield, because he's played so well, according to his coach, he deserves to be out there. He's done 26 passes in 2 games or whatever the hell. Okay. Ellen, athleticism, the ability, to get out there, out of the pot. Okay. But yeah, this is, we're not in an area of the season where we need to be desperate at the quarterback spot, I hope. And maybe Russell Wilson's down, Matt Ryan's out. We've got who's on bye this week? We've got Mahomes and, Herbert
that could
out.
be desperation. There's probably a lot of Mahomes or bust owners out there who don't have a backup quarterback.
I mean, I looked at this during the last break, and the league where I actually picked up Matt Ryan is the Elite Mafia Championship League. The league where I picked him up was to back up Russell Wilson. So, so now I got to go to the waiver wire again. Let's pull it up real quickly. The top guys at the quarterback position: Justin Fields, Kenny Pickett, Davis Mills, Jacoby Brissett, Mac Jones.
No Marcus Mariota? You can't go out and get Mariota?
Mariota's on there, so is PJ Walker.
Okay.
So maybe Ellinger is someone that people in 2QB or Superflex leagues are talking about.
Maybe, oh maybe. Okay, we'll talk a lot of waiver wires coming up tomorrow. Let's take a breather here, hand you off to the Den. We are back with more of Lunch Money after Duke in the Den on Bettor Sports Network.
Good afternoon, Bettors. It's your boy Duke back in better as always by FantasyGuru.com. Welcome back to Duke's Den. Happy Monday to you. Hopefully you guys had a great weekend.
Fantastic show thus far, but
it's Monday. That means football, which means I owe you a side and a total. Let's talk about it. Bears head to New England to take on the Patriots as it stands today. And depending on the site, and this is key, Pats are either an 8.5 or 9-point favorite. Obviously, you want that 8.5 if you're backing them. Maybe take the 9 if you're getting the Bears. Implied totals. I was wondering, do you guys know how to calculate implied totals? I didn't for a lot of years, but it's really simple. It really is. All you do is take the total, subtract rent. So in this instance, 40.5 minus 8.5 gives you 32. Divide that by 2. That gives you 16. That is the underdog's implied team total. So for instance, this have an implied total of 16 points. Now, obviously, Patriots implied total over, which is 24. Plot
are implied
to Tyler Beak has been a feature of this show. He has a really interesting prop over in the Discord and the NFL Bet Pack. David Montgomery under 13.5 rushing attempts, which makes kind of no sense, right? Starter for the Bears or a run-heavy team, but he goes into a few news and notes here and gives his reasoning why. But first, of course, Mac Jones should be back healthy, according to Jeff P. Howell on Twitter, who's got a blue. Right, there is no quarterback controversy in New England when Mac Jones is healthy. He'll be the starter per sources, and Mac Jones have both played 3 games, so we can, I guess, fairly compare and contrast, even though Mac has an extra year of experience on him. Turnover prone through his 3 games, 5 interceptions. Bailey Zappi, 1 interception behind as well. But as Tyler points out here, Pats are 5-2 at home against the spread. Bears 2-5 against the spread on the road. But even more importantly, the coaching staff for the Bears said they're going to use a hot hand approach with David Montgomery and Khalil Herbert. Herbert has earned that through his play thus far, averaging 6.4 yards carry. Additional carries against this front could go a long way. New England's allowing 4.33 yards per carry to opposing backs. So, who is playing well? And with the game flow, the Pats likely being ahead, the Bears having to throw a little bit more, and this hot hand approach, I tend to agree with my. It's under 13.5 rushing attempts for David Montgomery. Go ahead and lock that in. As for the side in total, I'm going under, and I'm taking the points. Bears and under 40.5, closer than the experts think. Good luck.
To throw, Fields going to toss it down the left side, going for Pettis, over the shoulder, makes the grab in the end zone. Touchdown! Touchdown Bears! Justin Fields on his stomach, took a hit, he's in pain again, but he just completed a beauty, 40 yards to Pettis.
It's always lunchtime here. Now back to Kyle Elfrink and Ray Flowers.
Justin Fields with the touchdown and the hit. That's another part, Ray. Justin Fields gets clobbered a lot there in that Bears backfield. Chicago Bears Radio Network with the call there. We'll see if the Bears can score some points tonight. Duke was taking the Bears to keep this one relatively close. He kind of likes them against the spread. He is going the under. That leads to my lunch hunch, Ray. Initially, I have a lunch hunch of Patriots cover and we get the over. I have been beaten down by the previous 2.5 hours of talking about bad offenses, Ray. So I'm actually going to flip that. Patriots still cover, but we're going the under on 40.5. I think that's the play. It comes in at plus 240 if you parlay those together. So Patriots cover, and again, the under for 40.5. That's going to be my lunch hunch. Your lunch hunch World Series, right? You're going back there. Ray can't get enough. He's ready for this World Series.
I am. I'm trying to keep the dream alive for those people that need a little baseball talk. Let's do it. We got the World Series coming up. The World Series will be starting, I think, on November 15th. Like what? It's Friday?
It's Friday, Ray. Friday.
What is going? Why? Like
TV?
Whatever.
Yeah, TV.
Yeah, I guess. But what? Like, so let's play against the NFL. Makes a lot of sense. And let's let the two teams set the rotations completely so it's as if they've never played a game. Okay, whatever. Because now anyway, we'll go into that some other time. But
Ray, it's going to build the suspense and get everybody excited for the World Series.
It'll build the suspense. Okay.
Or kill the momentum, one of the two. That's
both, and allow teams to set their rotation and their bullpens and everything. So it doesn't matter if they have a good team. It only matters if they have good elite players. Because the team doesn't matter as much when you have 400 days off between games because everyone gets to rest. Okay.
Right. Wookie made a good point in the chat room. He says spring training will begin 1 week after the World Series concludes.
Well, pretty much, right? It's like so they're and I know the season, but we're in November. Anyway, it's a long.
Well, remember, Ray. Remember, we had the lockout, so the season started late,
and we're wasting 4 full days now for no reason. 4 days.
Well, here's the thing, Ray. They tell Fox wants to know when's the World Series start. We got to put together a TV schedule.
Right.
You know, we can't just leave open a week and baseball comes 2 days out and says we want to start the World Series on Wednesday. They can't do that, Ray. That's not fair. If you're going to air these games, you got to tell the networks when the games are going to be.
Oh, I get it, but I'm saying it's stupid. I understand the practicality, but it's dumb.
Okay.
My bet, by the way, the lunch hunch is, I mean, Bryce Harper's on it. And if we're going to take the Phillies to win the series at plus 160, we're going to get the MVP. It's Bryce Harper. Reese Hoskins is hitting home runs, all that kind of stuff. Zach Wheeler's pitching great, but it's Bryce Harper. It's a great story. It's a fulfillment of he's going to be the best player in the league. Is it him or Trout? Like all this. It's a fulfillment of a decade, 15 years or whatever. Bryce Harper's going to be the next thing. Plus 700 to win the World Series. Never smart to take a player against the field, but I'll do it in this case.
Who was the lead MVP pick? Alvarez, Verlander? Was it
Alvarez is at 600. Verlander is at 900.
Okay, so Harper is the number 2 pick on that list, huh?
Oh, and interestingly enough, I just pulled it up. It's gone down to 650. Whoa, it's gone down 50 points since I saw it this morning.
Ray is moving markets. Look at that.
Look at that. 2.5 hours. Ray's influencing. Yes.
Everybody's like, ding, 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 ding. Got to get that at plus 700. Down to plus 650. So only Ray Flowers has that 700 ticket. You're irritated with the baseball schedule. Let me tell you something I'm irritated about, Ray.
Okay.
My blood pressure was spiking throughout yesterday when I was hit with the ceaseless and never-ending bombardment that it was National Tight End Day. Ugh. Like, that is the most tired, dumb, and played-out joke. Can we just stop it? Like, seriously, Ray. Can we just end this National Tight? And everybody thought it was so cute and funny, and they were drawing up storylines because it was National Tight End Day. Now, I want to keep them in the game. You don't. But I want to keep them in the fantasy game. I want them a part of our lives. They just don't need their own day. That's a step too far. And for somebody like yourself who hates them and wants to get rid of them, I would suspect you were furious with the constant coverage and the constant reminders that it was National Tight End Day yesterday.
And we had the Niners-Chiefs game being announced by Greg Olson.
Oh, yeah.
We had Travis Kelce catch 6 passes. We had George Kittle catch 6 passes. We had Travis Kelce go for 98 yards. We had George Kittle go for 98 yards.
Yeah, but slow it down, Ray. Slow it down.
Yeah.
Those were like ends who did anything yesterday.
But that was the game of the week, Kyle. It was the perfect. On
National Tight End Day, literally, I got to pull up the numbers. Like, no tight ends performed well, Ray. Nobody.
Except for Kelce and Kittle. Right there, the 2 guys in the national game that everyone wanted to see.
And I'm not counting Jawan Johnson because that was Thursday
early in the
night.
week, right?
Freiermuth was pretty good. Kelce killed. That's it. And Njoku got hurt. Dolchich, look at that, Ray. Another week of Greg Dolchich up there. Gerald Everett barely got the 10 points. Cade Otton, Hayden Hurst, Evan Ingram, Tommy Trimble.
He has 1 catch now in like 3 games. Yeah.
Tommy Trimble.
And a 0 for Mark Andrews.
Those are your top 10 tight ends for this week.
Tommy Trimble had infinitely more receptions than Mark Andrews yesterday. Interesting.
Yeah, if you're going to have a National Tight End Day, then the players at that position should actually show up and participate, right? They should show up.
Conspiracy, Kyle. Kittle kills it. Kelce kills it. The announcer is Olsen on National Tight End Day as a national title game or National Tight End game of the week.
Yeah. See, it just rolls off the tongue, doesn't it, Ray? It's just so fun. Just so fun. Speaking of Olsen, how did he fall into the lead booth? What happened there?
He's solid, but it's quick. Yeah, I don't know. It's a good question.
Yeah, it's a little. I don't know. Not doing it for me when I look at Greg Olsen. Give it some time, though, Kyle. Give it a little time. They're just waiting for Tom Brady to step away, do some things. Injury news. We got a lot of things taking place, but let's start in Carolina, Ray. We got big quarterback news with one PJ Walker. This is huge stuff. For all those who laughed at me and think I'm an idiot because I had PJ Walker in my top 10 last week. Again, he's top 10 this week. And Ray, he's got a shot to be top 10 the rest of the season.
Well, at least this week. He's the starter for the Panthers. The coaching staff, enamored with mediocrity, has already named him the starter, regardless of the health situation with Darnold or Baker Mayfield. You thought their season had turned around with the victory over the Bucs. Clarification that it has not.
Yeah, well, PJ Walker may be the better option at this point, Ray. He has earned it. Ray, he beat Tom Brady.
Single-handedly with his 170 yards of passing. Yes, single-handedly.
Speaking of QB play, again, San Francisco, Kansas City gave us good QB play, but as expected, Ray, like we said this going into the week, it's going to be a tough weekend for QBs. Like Mahomes was good, Burrow was good, Garoppolo was good, fantasy-wise, 300 yards, couple of touchdowns. Nothing else really going on here. I mean, I guess Davis Mills got to 300 yards. Daniel Jones had 100 yards rushing, but there were a lot more dud efforts at QB than we're used to seeing. It was expected to be a rough weekend, and it truly was yesterday.
Yeah, and if we look at it, this again, this is plaguing the league now. Scoring is down everywhere. It's making things more difficult in the fantasy game. We're not getting the spike weeks that we used to. Trevor Lawrence, who had a 52% completion percentage yesterday. Trevor Lawrence, who had no touchdown passes yesterday, quarterback 4.
Wow.
Oh, what? 5. Okay, I should learn how to count. Oh, 4, because I threw out Andy Dalton, who played earlier in the week. Andy Dalton, who threw 3 interceptions, 4th. Like,
yeah.
Trevor Lawrence, 0 touchdown passes, barely hit half his passes. Got quarterback 5 of the week. That's where we're at right
now. But again, it like if you pull up those scoring weeks, right? And again, we had some bad weeks, like Lamar Jackson didn't do anything. Prescott was kind of a mess. Like those top QB, like Burrow toured up. He was over like 40 points. Couple guys in the 30s, and then everybody else is like between 22 and 13 pretty well. So
looking tight end like Kyle.
Yeah, it looks a little rough, and it's funny to just see these names, Ray. Like, you know, and again, we had Hurts was on bye, and Allen was on bye, and Cousins on. Like a lot of the guys we kind of trust to be in the top 10, they weren't there. But Ray, it's just wild to look at like Taylor Heineke, Geno Smith, PJ Walker, Davis Mills, Daniel Jones. Like these are not names that should excite anybody. And yet, I guess they're starting in a lot of leagues. I guess people are probably turning to these guys for victories in week 7.
I mean, Kyler Murray's the top 10 quarterback this week. He threw for 204 yards and a touchdown. Ran for 30 yards. He's top 10 quarterback. So it makes the Geno Smiths and all these guys viable options because the league is such crap. And we talked about Brady and Rodgers, Lamar Jackson, all these high-level guys that just are barely scraping the surface of average right now. It's opening up opportunities for other guys to ascend in the fantasy game.
Yeah, I mean, even Matt Ryan got you 11 points. Matt Ryan had more fantasy points than his team had points yesterday. Again, Matt Ryan has been bench/injured. Sam Ehlinger is now the QB. That was announced today by the Indianapolis Colts. One of our buddies in the chat room is wondering about Ehlinger in a super flex 14 team. Not for me, Ray. Well, not for me. You got talent. You got Pittman. You got Paris Campbell. You got Pierce. You got Jonathan Taylor. Like there's stuff around them, but that offensive line still sucks. Now again, I don't know what the roster looks like. You know, if you need a second quarterback, I guess hey, super flex, why not? Because Ray, even a bad Sam Ehlinger gets you 12 points, whereas a bad super flex, you may end up with 2 points. So that's the old argument with quarterbacks in a super flex. But like holding him as a third quarterback. Not for me, Ray.
Yeah, and I mean, we're without Herbert and Mahomes, so 2 big losses this week, but we get back 4 guys that we didn't have last week. It's a mess. Again, it depends where I will have to put a bid in because I talked about this. I had Russell, I pivoted to Ryan, and that's in a 1-quarterback league. So, you know, there's certainly scenarios out there where it's a viable option to consider Sam E. I'm going to call him Sam E for some reason. But this, to the point, this offense has done not much. That's why Matt Ryan was getting benched. So, you know, are we going to take a turn to him over Justin Fields or Justin Wilson? Zach Wilson, sorry. Yes. Over Ryan Tannehill? Yes. Over Tyler Heineke? Yes. Over Brett Rippon? Yes. Over Davis Mills? Yes. So to answer the question, maybe he's worth a look.
Yeah, moving to the running back spot. And this position tore it up, Ray. Running back was strong yesterday. Jacobs doing his stuff. 143 and 3 touchdowns. Damian Pierce looked good. Derrick Henry, Donta Foreman, both guys with the Panthers. Let's see. Aaron Jones got 2 touchdowns. Antonio Gibson looks strong. You take a guy like Mostert, had over 100 yards and a touchdown. Kenneth Walker, Eckler, Chubb, Gus Edwards, Saquon Barkley, Travis Etienne, Zeke, Pollard. Like all these guys, it was kind of a loaded week for running backs this time around.
Really nice to see, too. And again, it included guys like Foreman and Hubbard and Gibson, guys that people were starting under duress. They still came through. Mostert, who you mentioned, is really ascended. He's obviously taken over the backfield with the Dolphins. There's no doubt about that. It's been that case for a couple of weeks, excuse me. Damian Pierce continuing to do really nice things for the Texans, another name you mentioned. And, you know, Tony Pollard, a guy we discussed earlier, you know, he's in the start me every week zone, even if Ezekiel Elliott's out there with his 15 touches a week.
No, about the only running back that just totally dudded like a guy somebody counts on would have to be Leonard Fournette. And I wonder, Ray, do you just write this off and say, hey, the Bucks have had 2 awful weeks and the whole offense looks messed up. It looks like they didn't come to play. Do you worry about Fournette? Do you worry about the Bucks? I mean, these last 2 weeks have been hideous for that team.
It's not even just the last 2 weeks. In 5 of 6 games, Leonard Fournette has not averaged 3.1 yards a carry. He has averaged in 6 games 14 carries for 39 rushing yards with 1 touchdown. So he's caught 5 balls in 4 or 5 games. So he's completely saving himself with the pass receptions. But if you're not in a PPR setup, if you're in a non-PPR setup, he's not doing nothing. He's not. Yeah. And so I am very concerned. Rashad White has had 3 of his 4 highest snap rates in the last 4 games. And his snap share percentage-wise yesterday was actually a season high. He's gaining on Fournette. And every week that Fournette runs with cement shoes on, which is what we're seeing right now, White's getting closer to being someone that we have to start worrying about if you're a Fournette owner.
Yeah, we haven't even gotten to the inevitable injury yet with Fournette. No. If people are looking at their waiver wire and a guy like White's there, Ray,
100% jump in.
He cost $1 now.
100% jump in.
And you can totally. So there are actually a lot of different avenues to go with running back this week, Ray. We talked about Carter. I would guess Donta Foreman is going to be somebody that people are after. Rashad White would be somebody that I think you just throw a cheap throw in on. And we'll see some release too, like James Robinson is probably going to get released in a lot of leagues. I think that's not a well-thought decision. Again, I understand that injuries bye week. Some people have to move on. We had a person in the chat room, Chase Edmonds. I mean, Chase Edmonds with the Dolphins, Ray, didn't even see the field really last night. I mean, he was nowhere to be found. And that's 2 weeks in a row where he hasn't been a part of the Dolphins offense.
Yeah, last night he played 18 snaps to 44 of Mostert. And we know that Mostert's an early down guy. And it wasn't a game that they had to play catch up. They were down by 3 touchdowns. So, but the disturbing thing, if you're an Edmonds owner, is not just the lack of production. It's that he ran 11 routes. Mostert ran 27. So they're not even using Edmonds as the pass catching guy per se. Edmonds is just a guy. If you are playing the I'm randomly holding a running back guy, Chase Edmonds does not have to be held at this point. If you have Mostert, you should. But understand that, again, when Mostert gets hurt, and it's almost certain it will happen, it's difficult to envision the way things are going now that we're going to see Edmonds out there getting the ball 16 times a week like Mostert is at the moment.
Moving on to wide receiver, taking a look at the Week 7 performances. A lot of the usual suspects. It was good to see Terry McLaurin back in our lives. 5 catches, 73 yards, and a touchdown. And I know it's been written about a lot, Ray, but Taylor Heineke is much more willing, it seems, to throw to Terry McLaurin and to make use of Terry McLaurin than Carson Wentz ever was, because we saw that yesterday. They wanted to make McLaurin a part of this offense. It wasn't a huge day by any stretch, but it was just good to have a nice day by Terry McLaurin. We haven't had many of those this season.
Yeah, a couple of those were almost house balls that Heineke just went, just threw it up there. And, McLaurin made some catches. It was against Alexander that everyone was worried about too. And that's a big takeaway from the game. You didn't mention earlier, but Heineke's going to throw the ball to McLaurin. And he's going to do it. And, he's going to make mistakes and it's okay kind of thing, but they were getting mistakes anyway with Carson Wentz. At least now we realize again that Terry McLaurin can be a guy that is part of our fantasy lives and someone that we can play every week.
Mike Evans could have had like 10 and 160 and a touchdown. Instead, he had 96 without a touchdown. Paris Campbell with Matt Ryan, 10 catches, 70 yards, and a score. Good game for Devontae Adams, 8 catches, 95 yards. Mike Williams, 7 catches, 86 yards, and a touchdown. But remember, there was the injury late in that game, so his status is a little questionable. And Seattle also has this issue with DK Metcalf right now, Ray. For instance, if Metcalf is out, are you interested in Marquise Goodwin, who stepped in, became the deep threat, if you will, for the Seahawks and had a couple of big plays?
They will be vying with the Cardinals for the smallest receiving group in football, if that's the case, with Goodwin and Lockett coming in at about
former Cardinal, right? I think he was with the Cardinals.
He was 5'9", 172 would be their average size or something like. No, Goodwin is a speed guy, right? He's not. He doesn't resemble Metcalf in anything other than they play wide receiver. If Eskridge, is he the answer? No. So I guess Goodwin would be worth a couple of bucks, but the expectations should be kept very much in check.
Amon-Ra St. Brown left with a concussion yesterday, but Ray, I guess it wasn't a concussion now with Amon-Ra St. Brown, huh?
Yeah, we got a big problem. For years, the NFL, we talked about this. Guys in hockey get a concussion, they miss 3 weeks. guys in the NFL get a concussion, they go back in the game, or they're certainly playing the next week.
Yeah.
Then we had the Tua Tagovailoa scenario, and now the league is under a lot of pressure because, I mean, it was bad, right? We've talked about this. So they have this independent spotter person and all that kind of stuff. And we've learned today, Pro Football Talk's reporting it, that Amon-Ra St. Brown did not have a concussion yesterday. He didn't. But because the ataxia, a person in the sky saw something, they didn't allow him back in the game. So even though he didn't have a concussion, even though they tested him and realized he didn't have a concussion, he wasn't allowed to enter the game again. Now, I have no problem with player safety. I've talked about this with Tua's injury happened and stuff, but we have just as big a problem now if the league is not allowing players to play when they're okay as we do allowing players to play when they're not okay.
Well, and Ray, it's just like replay. Everybody wants it, and then they see it in action. They're like, oh, this is terrible. This is kill. And it's the same thing with concussions. Why is this so violent? Why can't the NFL protect these guys? And it's such an impossible line. We were talking about this when Tua suffered the concussion. Like, it's not always that way to where you see the guy have the concussion.
Right.
Most of these concussions are not like that.
Right.
There are probably guys, Ray, I'm just going to throw this number out here. There are probably like 50 dudes who suffer concussions on Sunday that the team doesn't know about and we don't know about. That's the nature of the sport. It's very easy when that injury happens, like Tua had a few weeks back, and say, oh my God, a concussion. Like, that's easy. But a majority of these, Ray, are not like that.
Right.
Like, we always see the one with the hit, the guy, going frozen or what it may be, and those are easy. It's this gray area that's so difficult. And even medical science doesn't really, there's not like one agreed upon test that says, yes, concussion. I mean, there is no x-ray or anything to tell us when a guy has had a concussion.
There's not. And we talked about this after the Tua thing. And I basically said, look, if you can't stand up, you're out. Like, I don't think it needs to be that complicated. If a guy goes to stand up and he falls over, well, okay, you're out. Whatever's going on, you're not okay. The league now is, though, in this zone of, the guy, gets up and he goes to the sideline. They check him out. He's passed the test. And now he's got to sit there for 2.5 hours watching a football game. And it's, Dan Campbell's quoted in these stories saying, look, the league said no.
Yeah.
You passed our test. They said you can't. So, I mean, and when you talk about teams being hampered by this, Ted Schuster said this over at fantasyguru.com. Jeff Mans talked about it too. The league's failure to do this properly in the first place. Failure to have rules in place that don't allow Tua Tagovailoa, when he does what he does, to come back in the game. The league's failure to have those rules in place is now costing teams the opportunity to win football games now because of the overreaction to the mistake that they had to fix that they started with.
Well, we'll see if it ever affects a playoff game or a must-win game. Yesterday, they were losing 24-0. That's an easy win for the Cowboys, but would have helped to have St. Brown. Quiet day for him. Also in that game, Michael Gallup shut out yesterday. Nothing for Michael Gallup. Some other underachievers. Cortland Sutton, 3 catches, 23 yards. Alec Pierce, 3 for 37. Robert Woods, 3 for 26. Drake London, 1 catch for 9 yards. Keenan Allen, 2 for 11. And we should note with Allen, Ray, didn't play a single snap in the second half. He tried to gut through it, wasn't able to. They are on bye this week, so hopefully he's good to go come week 9.
Yeah, he said after the game, I was on a pitch count anyway. One of those, it's like, thanks.
A little late to tell us now. Keenan.
Yeah, and again, in retrospect, if you played him, and I said to play him, if you played him, I think it still was the right call. There's no reason to think they would activate him before the bye week and not play him. It makes no sense. If they were going to play him 20 snaps, hold him out through the bye. That's not what they did.
Finally, we send you out the door with a little dessert. Venice. We've all wanted to go to Venice. You've never been to Venice, have you, Ray?
I'm not.
Yeah, they got gondolas there. A lot of gondolas. Ray, a couple of 30-year-old drunk dudes stole a gondola in Venice and took it for a joyride. They didn't know how to use it, how to drive it, how to have fun. But the gondola people are up in arms about this. They're extremely upset that somebody would have the audacity to mess with their gondolas, which I'm told they cost like $70,000. A gondola, a boat.
Put a lock on it. No?
Yeah, I guess. Put a lock on it. Amazingly, these drunkards didn't know how to steer the gondola, which I would figure that'd be a tough thing to do.
I would agree. Looks challenging.
Yeah. They're probably going to give these guys a slap on the wrist, and they'll be back to stealing gondolas in a city near you soon. That'll do it for us. Thanks to Josh and Tony. We'll see you tomorrow.